Today with Ari and James, Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for
I forgot that my coworkers have legs.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Haven't seen you guys from like the chest down in months.
It's been a while. Yeah. I
This
know how much you like looking at us chest down, so
Man, if those kneecaps aren't screaming, I don't know what is.
yeah. That was it for
But
sure.
The room that I had been doing this show from is very much universal. Part office, part daycare center compound. Sometimes people are in there watching television. It's also my wife's workstation. It's my startup incubator. But I'm super excited to be out of there and be back in the saddle. This feels like home from 7 to 10 Central, Monday through Friday. This is it.
James Wesley, Ari Tepkin, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on Tuned In and Watched on Big 12 Studios. Of course, check out all the platforms you can stream us on video via big12studios.com so you can see this amazing studio we are in right now. A lot to get to today. We've got a busy show. As you can see on the visual side of Big 12 Today, we've got quarterback tiers coming up and an interesting look at the athletics quarterback tiers, plus Mike Casaza from EAR Sports is joining the show as well. We are busy. We've got our Big 12 schedule superlatives as well. Let's get it on. It's a busy show. But you know, I've heard a lot of the comments and quotes and thoughts come out of SEC Media Days, and on a Three Things Thursday, the first thing that I'm thinking about is just how hilariously hypocritical the SEC is. So, like, the main thing, if you're paying attention to all the SEC Media Days going right now, actually it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so I think it's over now. But, like, the belly aching and complaining over a 9-game SEC schedule knows no bounds, James. And the irony is, a conference that prides itself on strength of schedule. SOS! We've got a great strength of schedule. Man, do we play the toughest schedule of games ever invented. We should just marry ourselves because we're so good. We're the SEC. And yet, despite that, every coach found time to complain about a 9-game schedule, with the exception of John Summerall, the Florida coach, who said he's not going to complain about being an SEC coach. That's one of my favorite hypocritical moments from SEC Media Days. There's also one of my other favorites. This one is Tech fans will love this one. This is the story of Cole Hudson. Okay, Cole Hudson is an offensive lineman for Texas who played 4 years. He started 48 games. He went through the NFL draft process. He did not get selected. He was in minicamp with the Cowboys. And now he's suing for a temporary restraining order in order to get eligibility to play again. This on the heels of Sark saying, quote, right now we can't even govern our own rules because you break a rule, you go to a judge, you get an injunction, everything's good, life goes on, end quote. Sark literally said that on the heels of one of his players starting 48 games, going through the NFL draft process, going undrafted, and now trying to get a TRO in order to play this year.
Man, there's so much to unpack from what is I think it's a 4-day event because they rotate 4 schools at a time.
So there you go. Yeah, so it is today. You're right.
Which is just ridiculous in itself. Everybody's checked out by day 4, and who are even the last 4 left? But the schedule talk, both things can't be true in this scenario, that when the SEC is winning football games, it's because they play a really tough in-conference schedule. When the SEC is losing football games in the college football playoff,
it's because
we play a really tough conference schedule, and we're worn down and out of gas by the college football playoff.
Nobody plays a tougher schedule.
Nobody.
Do you see the collection of teams that they have?
And then you see teams like
Mississippi State, South Carolina, golly, Kentucky. Whew.
And
what a murderer's row.
I'm a numbers guy. So I love seeing the math and the data when you look at teams like Missouri, who got outscored like 75-3 against their 3 ranked opponents. Tennessee, who didn't beat a team that made a bowl game on their schedule. And I think those two teams combined went like 1-15 against teams that actually played in bowl games. And then the college football playoff record.
Well, James, I don't know if you're paying attention here. Every game the SEC plays is a good game, right? So if you've got a winning record as an SEC team, it's a good record.
It doesn't
you're talking about,
matter.
You're talking about bowl teams and winning records and ranked teams. Come on.
Yeah, so the league,
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I don't understand how a league that goes 1-8 in their 9 bowl games against power conference opponents, that conference went 1-8. I don't understand how you can go 1-8 and then stick your chest out like you're the best league in America. Prove it on the field. And so many coaches are saying the same thing, just in a different way. And we had some of the comments yesterday from Greg Sankey about the college football playoff and what breaking away would actually mean for the SEC. To me, it's a lot of, I'm going to say this really bold statement, and then I'm going to walk it back. And not just him, but from multiple coaches over the last 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, Sankey's contradiction is my favorite. We played some of it when he talked about, we still need the NCAA. We want to figure out a way to come together to live within this NCAA ecosystem. The money quote here is, "We support the effort behind the Protect College Sports Act."
AKA, we hate it. It does not benefit us, and we hate it.
But they're trying. I like the effort. I like that they're trying. This is like a classic thoughts and prayers sort of comment. Thoughts and prayers. Hey, we may not support the bill, but they're trying. I support the effort of it. I like effort. Effort's good.
It's a bad look for everybody outside of the SEC.
But here's the thing, is it? I feel like nobody's holding them accountable for the gibberish that they're uttering right now. I mean, literally, there was a debate that I saw on the SEC channel, which is not ESPN. They actually have their own channel aside from the ESPN main channel. And on it, they were basically arguing that because of the 9-game schedule, that they should get more teams in because of strength of schedule. They're just sitting in a car with the windows up, farting nonstop and smelling it. That's what they're doing.
The best argument to get more teams into the college football playoff is the teams that you currently have in the field are winning football games.
Yeah.
And the SEC hasn't done that, and the Big 12 hasn't had an opportunity to do that because the Big 12's only played in 2 college football playoff games since the new format. The other thing that the SEC is doing when it comes to positioning, and not just the league, but it seems like all of the internal meat and potatoes beat writers covering this conference. Like yesterday, I see this other notable new rules for the SEC. And it's the penalty for offensive pass interference. It's the no carryover disqualification for a second half targeting, right? And they're framed as new notable SEC rules. And I actually got with this. I saw this, and my first thought was, is the SEC literally just making their own rules for what happens between the white lines? And the answer is no. It turns out it's actually a rule change for all of college football, all of FBS and FCS. It comes down from the NCAA, but they position it as the SEC's notable new rules.
Yeah. No, I saw that. You put that on the rundown yesterday, and I was going to be like, yeah, dude, that's actually for all of college football.
Which is exactly what all the comments said.
And, I mean, it's almost as if some in the SEC believe that the SEC has already broken away. It's bizarre.
Feels that way.
Yeah.
It really does.
You also had John Summerall, the coach of Florida, who I like, but so he was calling out the ACC and the Big 12 and basically saying, we've got the SEC and the Big 10 on one level, and then it's really a power 2, and then there's 2 others. And his rationale behind it was at Tulane, we beat Duke last year, and Duke won the ACC. Okay, John, you included another conference in there with 16 members, none of which you played last year.
A Duke team that went 9-5 and eked by, in overtime, a middle-of-the-pack Big 12 school last year.
Yes.
With their backup quarterback, with their star receiver getting ready for the NFL draft. Duke escaped Arizona State. And I like John Summerall, too. I've met him. I've had Tulane games over the last couple of years. He's a really good guy, and there's no doubt in my mind that he will have success at Florida. But with that said, the other kind of taking shots at the Big 12 that I would push back with is, if that's the case, and the budgets and the discrepancies and we can recruit and get any transfer that we want when competing head-to-head with Big 12 and ACC schools, well, where is that with all the Tulane players that were with Summerall that are now at Houston with Willie Fritz? They had a choice. Shadray Hurst could be a starting offensive lineman at Florida. He's that good. He's an All-American player. He's the top-rated player in the conference, according to EA Sports. He chose to go to Houston to play for Willie Fritz over John Summerall. So head-to-head, pick your poison. The Big 12 is competing at a very high level.
On a Three Things Thursday, we're making fun of the SEC because their hypocrisy is on full display during SEC Media Days, and it looks even more foolish now that they're not even really competing for national championships in the way that they used to. Also, later today, the Big 12 Athletes of the Year are going to be revealed. That'll be at 11 a.m. Central, so they will recap the seasons that were in the Big 12, as we are just a few weeks away from fall sports kicking off. Soccer and volleyball get started. Football, of course, to follow. So fall sports are not too far behind us, but we will find out the Big 12 Athletes of the Year today at 11 a.m. Central. I also saw this. So the oldest and youngest teams in college football. The College Football Zone pulled this from RotoWire. You could see just the list of the oldest and youngest college football teams in America. And our friend Jeff Fuller, who does a great job, he's a BYU guy, and he's always great on the numbers. He points out that as much as BYU gets called out for being, a school with missionaries that's older, they're not on this list as one of the oldest schools programs in college football right now. Number one is UTSA at 21 years old. North Texas is at 21. Utah State's at 20.8. Florida Atlantic at 20.8 and down, and so on and so forth. But you've got basically a huge amount of group of 5 schools, and then UCF at 13th at 20.68. Colorado at 20.63 at 16th. Kansas at 17th at 20.63. What does this say to you?
Yeah, so you know what they say about assumptions? And if you don't, I'll fill you guys in.
Makes an ass out of you and me.
You got it.
Thank you.
This guy nailed it. I think that we assume that the best teams in college football are the oldest teams in college football. And I think there's a difference between experience and age. And BYU, that was shocking to me because the narrative is still out there. And maybe this was the case like 10 years ago where they were winning football games at a high level because they were older and they had a bunch of 23 and 24 and 25-year-old football players. But to see this list, number one, I was shocked by the number of group of 5 schools because I think the assumption and the perception is that you go play at a UTSA or in North Texas for a year or two, and then that springboards you to a power conference school. Well, that isn't necessarily the case based off of this data. Now, Oklahoma State makes sense to me at being number 9, Kansas at number 16. The other thing that this tells me is college football is getting younger collectively. More 5-star true freshmen or true sophomores are playing and having an impact because the best teams in college football are not necessarily the oldest. A lot of them have very young rosters, with Georgia actually the youngest team in all of college football.
Yeah, I mean, and I think when you read between the lines here, the schools with the most money that are able to recruit at the highest level have the youngest rosters, and the group of 5 being as old as they are is a product of that. Also important to note, RotoWire, how we calculated each team's average age. Every player on each 2026 roster was assigned an age from their listed eligibility class on a redshirt aware scale. For example, a redshirt junior is modeled older than a true junior, using published ages where available. So basically, this is not just every age of every player at every roster. It's what is your class, which could be a reason why BYU is not viewed as old as they are here.
Okay.
And that's not just to single out BYU. That's the case for everybody here. It's might be a little bit skewed by that, but I think the conclusion is true here. The The Big 12 is the oldest Power 4 league by a lot. 20.46 average versus the ACC at 20.32, the Big 10 at 20.29, and the SEC at 20.17, with Oklahoma State as the oldest. But it's not a quality metric, to your point. It's more of a, says a lot about where college football is today. Again, Georgia's the youngest roster in college football because they're recruiting at a high level. Ohio State's in that same conversation. USC, Tennessee, those are all young rosters. Texas. So they're recruiting at a high level. It makes sense.
Well, I think that's something, the Big 12 being the oldest conference, that's something to be excited about, because if their criteria is your classification, number one, naturally a junior or redshirt junior is going to be an older player because they're at least 3 years removed from high school. But a redshirt junior, that means he has one more season of development compared to that true junior. And even with the portal and these guys maybe being at a previous school before they end up at the Big 12, they're still being developed at both places. So to me, the criteria that they use is just as exciting and maybe more exciting because it's almost kind of a hybrid between experience, maybe not in terms of snaps on the field, but being inside of a locker room, being in a program that skews in favor of the Big 12 versus just age alone.
Yeah, and look, I think the Big 12 being the oldest power conference is a positive thing to a degree, but it'll be interesting to note, I think, how this changes and evolves over the years. This will be fun to follow and see, can the Big 12 get younger? Because, again, it's sort of counterintuitive to how we think about age, experience, and winning.
Right. And the Big 12 will have more high-profile 4-stars and 5-stars in this conference this season than ever before. This was a banner year when it comes to the current 16 members. Texas Tech had another historic recruiting class. BYU had an epic recruiting class. West Virginia had a top 25 class. And these are high school rankings. So Utah, who's maybe going to start a true freshman at offensive tackle. Texas Tech, who maybe is going to start a true freshman at multiple positions. Like, will these freshmen be able to play and perform at a high level immediately in the Big 12? Because we haven't really seen that before. And we've seen it a little bit in some of the other leagues, like Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith, I think was kind of at the forefront of this evolution. But we haven't seen it yet in this league.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. There's Three Things on a Three Things Thursday presented by Modelo. On the way next, schedule superlatives. Some of the most interesting notes about schedules across the Big 12. We'll get into that next with James. I'm Ari. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
With Stacy.
have to do that at the end of the show.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Jump in the comments on YouTube. Just search Big 12 Conference. People watching and commenting there may even jump in the comments with you or read your comments on air. So go to youtube.com, search Big 12 Conference, stream us there as a part of Big 12 Studios, big12studios.com for all of the platforms in which you can stream us. Okay, schedule superlatives. Chris Lowe from On3 has a deep dive breakdown. The college football schedule superlatives for 26, easiest, toughest, and everything in between. Some interesting notes here specific to the Big 12, James, including the easiest Power 4 schedule, which belongs to none other than Texas Tech. No surprises there. We've been talking all offseason about how easy Texas Tech's schedule is. They play 3 non-conference opponents that are non-Power 4, including Oregon State, Sam Houston, and Abilene Christian. They also miss BYU, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, UCF, and Utah. So Utah, BYU being huge misses for them.
So Nebraska is listed as the easiest Power 4 non-conference schedule. Texas Tech, the easiest overall. So what does that mean for Texas Tech? Does that mean that Texas Tech needs to run the table in the regular season? If they have a loss, are they on the outside looking in for the college football playoff? And then how do these schedules and these metrics evolve over time? Because there could be somebody on Texas Tech's schedule that has a really nice 9 or 10 or 11 win season. right? And so what determines all of that is how the Big 12 fares in the non-conference. And we talk about this every offseason. We've done it back-to-back years. 2 years ago, it was a brutal non-conference for the Big 12. Last year, it was quite a bit better. It was better than the ACC. It wasn't quite as strong as the SEC or the Big 10, but it was significantly better than the ACC. And so this season, the next step forward is, can the Big 12 be above 500 in other non-conference Power 4 matchups? Can the Big 12 get a major, like, hang your hat on upset win, whether it's BYU over Notre Dame? I think a sneaky game for Oregon is going to be at Oklahoma State. Those would be wins that very much move the needle in terms of the perception of the conference, which right now, like this time of year, that's what strength of schedule is. It's perception. Nobody knows what these teams are actually going to look like on kickoff Saturday.
In terms of the easiest open to the season, which is one of the factors that Chris Lowe is looking at, he's got Utah as the easiest open with 3 consecutive non-conference home games, Idaho, Arkansas, and Utah State, then at Iowa State, a bye, then Kansas at home. So 4 of 5 at home, road games against the team that we ranked 16th, including Cincinnati. It's the first time since 2013 Utah has opened with 3 straight home games, and they play 4 of 5 at home to start the year. So easiest opener would be Utah.
And it's hard to disagree. They have 2 of their 3 non-conference games already locked in as nationally televised games. So major moments for new coach Morgan Scalley. They play Arkansas at home. That's the perfect power conference opponent to have as your marquee non-conference game because there's still a lot of pedigree and prestige from the SEC, but a new roster and a new coach. And then Utah State, you've got the Battle of the Brothers, I believe they call that rivalry. It's at home, and it's on Fox. So you've got an ESPN and a Fox game back-to-back. And then you open Big 12 play at Iowa State and at home against Kansas. Like, that schedule shapes up really nice for Morgan Scalley to build some momentum, which for a guy that this still is very new for him, even though he's been on staff for almost 20 years, like, I think he needs that, right? So their schedule shapes up really nice.
The easiest close to the season, according to Chris Lowe, is Houston, which that one I'm not so sure about. The bye Halloween weekend, then Cincinnati at home November 7th, then Colorado at West Virginia November 21st, Baylor at home November 28th. So, I mean, yes, from a on-paper preseason standpoint, it's not exactly a murderer's row to finish the season. But it is 5 conference road. I mean, but you're talking about 3 time zones, right? I mean, you're going from Cincinnati, Colorado, West Virginia, then back home for Baylor. Like, that's a lot of different time zone travel over the course of just a few weeks. Also, the first ever program trips to Boulder and Morgantown and Salt Lake City for the first time since 1977. So it's the first time Houston's ever going to Boulder, ever going to Morgantown. It's the first trip for them to Salt Lake City since 1977. And remember, one of the teams included in there in the easiest close is West Virginia, who beat Houston at Houston last year. And they should be vastly improved this year.
Yeah, that was their marquee win, right? And they did it with a true freshman at quarterback. I mean, and that's why maybe I'm a little bit too high on West Virginia, but I really like them as a dark horse contender because I see that small sample size, the last 4 games last year. They went on the road and beat a 10-win football team on the road in their own backyard with a true freshman at quarterback and a kid that was one of 5 quarterbacks that played throughout the season. With Houston's schedule this year, the time zone travel is alarming, number one, because I totally disagree with this sentiment that they have an easy road to wrap things up. Not just the time zone aspect, but also the weather aspect. They've got a road game late October in Salt Lake City. It's going to be gnarly, right? And then they've got a road game November 13th, a couple of weeks later, in Boulder, Colorado.
On a Friday night, late night, right? It's a 9:15 kick.
There could be a foot of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And then past that, the next 8 days later, they have to travel all the way to Morgantown. Morgantown could have snow. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. And so a team that's like the southernmost team in the conference that loves that warm weather climate, that's going to be a major challenge for Houston that they just simply didn't have last year. Their road games were in their own backyard. They were in the state of Texas. Like, they didn't have to travel to these places.
The other thing that's kind of interesting to point out that Chris Lowe does is that BYU has 9 straight games. They're the only FBS team closing with 9 straight games, meaning they have a bye September 26th, then October 3rd at TCU through November 28th versus Cincinnati with no break. 9 consecutive weeks. 8 Big 12 games plus Notre Dame and Provo on October 17th.
That's a long stretch.
Yeah.
That's over 2 months with no breaks. And why that could be, ultimately to me, like what could potentially derail BYU's season is injuries.
Yeah.
That's it. Full stop. Like, that team is so talented on both sides of the ball. They have experience. They have depth. They have a breakout quarterback who I think is going to have a monster sophomore year. But their star running back missed time last year. Their star running back, L.J. Martin, had an off-season shoulder surgery. That, to me, when you're playing 9 straight weeks of college football, is a major red flag. And in that 9-week gauntlet includes Notre Dame, includes Utah, includes some really tough physical opponents. And BYU, a program that hangs their hat on physicality, can they hold up and withstand that? That's the only thing to me that would derail them and make them a 9-3 or 8-4 or even 10-2, which might be a down year for them and their expectations type of season.
Well, in the power outages section of this Chris Lowe piece on these schedule superlatives, he lists Arizona, Houston, K-State, Texas Tech with 0 Power 4 non-conference games, which is obviously true. Curious for your thoughts here in terms of how that hurts the Big 12.
Yeah, so those are all teams that play one of 2 teams, Oregon State or Washington State, because the schedules for the non-conference, and my goodness, is the SEC not canceling like every power conference opponent that they could possibly play? We've seen 2 Big 12 schools impacted by it just this week.
Yeah.
But if you're playing Oregon State and Washington State, those agreements were put in place
When they were Pac-12 schools.
nearly a decade ago for Kansas State. And so at this point in time, it looks very different on paper than it would if those 2 teams were in power conferences, which I've gotten quite the chuckle out of. Oregon State fans are convinced that they're moving to the Big 12, that they're going to be in this conference. And I think I think that stems from them playing so many Big 12 schools. But again, these agreements were done 5, 6, 7 years ago.
So just a few thoughts overall on this. I mean, the obvious piece here is the 2 different races that Texas Tech and BYU are running, because we just talked about it, right? Texas Tech, BYU do not play this year. They played last year twice. They do not play this year. Texas Tech has the easiest schedule, according to Chris Lowe and many others, in the entire Power 4. We'll see if it ends up playing out that way. But BYU has that 9-week, really difficult stretch, but does have 7 home games in that 9-week stretch. So it's just kind of interesting how you've got 2 teams, perhaps on a collision course for Arlington, running 2 completely different races here.
And that's part of the reason why I picked Texas Tech to go back-to-back, which hasn't been done since the late 2010s in this league. Part of it is their schedule, and I think that if BYU and Texas Tech do play in Arlington, yeah, BYU is going to be going on 9 straight weeks of football. They're going to be battered. Texas Tech has a much lighter load. The other kind of interesting, asterisk to this whole thing is he notes that the easiest Power 4 schedule away from home, the easiest road schedule in the country, belongs to Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame's headline road game is at BYU. And a couple of months ago, we looked at Notre Dame's road schedule over the last 2 or 3 years. They haven't played anybody even close to the environment and the chaos that they're going to walk into when they walk into LaVell Edwards Stadium in Provo. So a major opportunity for the Big 12 to maybe steal one. Also, that's early in BYU's 9-game, no-rest gauntlet. They get Notre Dame at the front end of that. So maybe they're not beat down and worn down and can hang.
And I guess we'll find out which road for BYU or Texas Tech, if they both end up in Arlington, is more beneficial, right? Is Texas Tech going to benefit more from coasting on an easy schedule, or will BYU be better battle tested, and that will help them in a potential rematch from last year's Big 12 championship game. The last thing I'll note is Judgment Weekend, November 6th and 7th. The Week 10 chaos list includes TCU at Arizona and BYU at Utah. So Week 10 could be a huge week from the Big 12 point of view in terms of, like, across college football. Week 10 is crazy chaos, but especially the Big 12 with those two matchups. TCU at Arizona could be a huge factor, and then, of course, the Holy War.
And I love that the Big 12 got a lot of love during that section. But with Texas Tech, Texas Tech still has difficult games on their schedule. Okay, you're really high on Colorado as being a breakthrough sleeper team. Well, they have to play in Boulder at Colorado. They have Houston at home. They have Arizona State, albeit at home. They still play Arizona. They play at Oklahoma State and at Baylor. If DJ Lagway is the real deal and has a breakthrough year, that game at Baylor, which is a huge rivalry matchup, could be really sneaky November 21st. So, I think Texas Tech having the easiest schedule in this narrative, I think part of it stems from just everything that happened this offseason with them being painted as the villain and an easy target. I'm not convinced that they're going to have the easiest schedule in all of college football.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Our buddy Mike Casaza from Ear Sports. We catch up with him with everything going on in Morgantown, plus his thoughts from Big 12 Media Days, as he was there as well with us. We get into that with Casaza next. This is Big 12 Today with James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin, presented by Modelo. You see the sign. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Robertson spins one, 4th down, got it! Senior to senior. Robertson spins one, 4th down, got it! Rush up the middle, Robertson spins one, 4th down, got it! From the mesh point, he pulls, he shoots, box for a touchdown, Josh Cameron. Bowl eligibility on the line, and they go to Josh Cameron, as you said, to start and to cap. Class was in the ESPN 300. Robertson, and so that is caught by Cameron. Flag down, you hear Cameron barking, and one. Josh Cameron on the outside, one-on-one. He's got guys straight all the way on. You mentioned it. Does he have full possession of that football? Now he has possession immediately, but watch the ball move here. He's already got maybe that 70%. He's going to get the catch. Josh Cameron on the outside, one-on-one. He's got guys straight all the way on. You mentioned it. Play fake. One-on-one coverage. Jump ball. Flag is out. Hits hauled in. Josh Cameron.
This is what we talked about earlier in impact players. He's our guy that they throw the fade to. You see it right here?
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, along with James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. Mike Casaza from Ear Sports joining us here on Big 12 Radio. Mike does a fantastic job of covering West Virginia and getting a look at the Big 12. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. It's finally we're overdue to put my name to your face here because or your face to your name because I was walking through Media Day in Dallas and I heard the voice. I'd never met you before, Ari, and all of a sudden I was like, I know that voice, and all of a sudden you popped up very friendly, shook my hand, and dream came true.
Yeah, it was great to see you and meet you as well. Yeah, I mean, we launched Big 12 Radio on a different platform in 2018, and you've been a common guest, one of our best throughout that time. So yeah, I mean, it's eight. In fact, I have a son that is about to be 8 years old in November that was born right after we launched the channel. So basically eight years ago. And you've been fantastic as a common guest for us. And again, I think there's nobody better that covers West Virginia. And, you know, as somebody that is reading constantly all of the pages across 24/7 and On3 and all the platforms and independent and whatnot, you guys at Ear Sports do some of the best work of anybody.
Well, thanks, man. My check should arrive shortly, by the way, so thank you. I'm glad you followed through on the quid pro quo there.
I want to get your thoughts on the conference at large and some of your observations about media days, but let's start in your backyard because, you know, my co-host here, James, is very high on West Virginia. He thinks they're a major sleeper in the Big 12. We both agree. I mean, the Rick Trickett hire is going to be huge. The offensive line was awful last year. We think it's going to be a lot better this year, and that once your offensive line works, suddenly the Rich Rod offense might hum a little bit. What are your just overall thoughts on the optimism around the West Virginia Mountaineer football team this year?
So rewind. Last year, you got me in some trouble because you asked me if I thought it was going to work in year one with Rodriguez, and I said I had my doubts. And you know, it's impossible nowadays to really look at rosters and say, are they going to be good? Right. How many games can they win? Because you just don't know, right? So I kind of boil it down to just like, what do they have to do to be good? And if you know Rich Rodriguez's offense, you have an idea. You can sketch out what it's supposed to look like. And I just didn't see the pieces last year to make it work. You know, the offensive line was just not what it is right now. Quarterback situation was unknown. They didn't have a proven running back, and you just wondered how are they gonna run what they want to run with these parts. I just don't know if it can work, and it didn't work. I don't feel the same way this year. Like I think that they'll land on the right quarterback eventually, maybe not right away, but eventually. Their running game shouldn't be an issue this year, and then just the quantity of additions in the offensive line, to say nothing of the quality, it'd be really hard not to find the right five or to have some depth. I feel a lot better about that than I did last year, and I don't think that's a unique thought. And that's the point of what they tried to pursue in the offseason. Why did they get the NCAA's leading rusher, Cam Cook? Why did they go out and sign 5 players, offensive line, from the transfer portal? Why did they go get Michael Hawkins from Oklahoma? They want the running quarterback. They want the dual threat, the 2 options in the backfield. They want the bullies on the offensive line and just avoid last year of that I think they've addressed. And we'll see how it works, but I can see it definitely working this year, whereas I just had questions about that last year.
Well, I know that, in this era of college football, every season is like a blank slate because there's so much turnover. But with that said, I look at the guys that West Virginia did bring back. I look at the health of Jaden Bray. And then, like, 4 of the last 5 games last year were either wins or one-score losses. One-score losses to Arizona State and TCU, and a massive win against Houston, and a solid low-key win against Colorado. So, like, I saw encouraging signs last year, late in the year, that this team was improving. So you factor that with all the transfers, and I guess my question is, do you look at that at all? Does that play any factor or role in what this year could be?
It's such a small number of returning parts that you're right. It matters. But those voices and that motivation can get drowned out pretty quickly by just a number of new people and new voices, and they have to learn everything all over. So, like, you may have 5, 6, 8 people who were humming last year at the end of the season who are back this year, but they might be being replaced. Like, some of those guys that were in the scene last year aren't going to be on the field as much this year when the season starts. And then, what happens? Do new players deliver new obstacles, new hurdles you have to overcome? And then again, you're peaking at the end of the season and you're hoping to do it again next year. That's the unknown, and that's maybe the danger of this whole era. I would say this, though, that what's mostly static is the coaching staff, and definitely the head coach And yeah, Rick Trickett's new, but that's a voice that, well, it's not really like any other voice I've ever heard, but he certainly knows like the Rodriguez language, and it's going to be consistent and probably an upgrade over what was being taught and dispersed last year. So I just think that if they were having questions last year about, man, can this work in the portal era at a Power 4 school? Because it worked at Jacksonville State, which is different, it just is. Those were encouraging signs that the message does get through, and it's not broken there. It may need to be refined and filed and chiseled here, but it works at large. And if they can just kind of get the right message early and just continue to push the way they do, they coach hard, they do all the hard edge stuff, they play fast, practices are brutal sometimes. If they can just get that into like something that's more digestible early on, I don't think you'll see like the setbacks early. And the big thing is they have a chance to have momentum early in the season. Their schedule's pretty soft at the start. One hurdle right away, but I mean, if they get over that UVA game on a neutral site, that's a huge thing for them too. So I think you're right. If they can package everything that went well in those last couple of games, just the good stuff, even the losses, and they can get that on the tracks early in the season, then they could distance themselves from where they were last year pretty quickly.
I watch the games and then I listen to Country Roads Confidential because I have to get great insight into what's happening in Morgantown. And I know for you guys, there's been a lot of discussion the last couple of years about the secondary and how atrocious it's been. First under last year under Neil Brown, and then of course year one under Rich Rod. Are they going to be as bad? One and two. And we talked to Rich Rod about this. He seemed to think just adding more size. He mentioned getting mossed a bunch last year, where they just whatever the top. Are you optimistic about the secondary this year?
Yeah, and then I would look at subtraction elsewhere too. Like the passing game lost a lot in the Big 12. A lot of players drafted, quarterbacks, receivers. Some of the coaching's moved on too. So I think that when other teams suffer, you might prosper too. So if there's there's no Jordan Tyson, there's some Big 12 receivers have moved on. So that can only help too. I don't think they played Jordan Tyson last year, so that doesn't really matter. But you get my point. Like star players moved on. So the guy who's mossing everybody in the Big 12 might not moss your cornerback. And then this kind of goes back to my conversation at the start. Last year they just had some unproven corners who were kind of small. This year they have some guys who played a little bit, but not at the Power 4 level. But they got a bunch of 6'3" cornerbacks. So if their thing is that we want to be physical and run with people and be really combative, 6'3" guys who can run should be able to do that. Now, can they make that leap from junior college or from the group of five? I don't know. I have questions about that for sure. But again, will it work? Who knows? Can it work? Yeah. I mean, so they have the parts there to make that happen. And then just can it be worse than what it was in the past couple of years? Like frankly, I don't remember them getting mossed a whole bunch last year. I remember the problem being they were wide the heck open. That seems coverage. If you can play some more man, it might be better that way. So I just think that other offenses not being quite as good, having the parts to play the way they want to play versus kind of piecemealing it together last year, that was a challenge for them they weren't good enough to overcome. Again, it could work, but if it was that easy, everybody would be doing this too. And you don't see a lot of schools recruiting junior college players. Not only that, 2 junior college players in the same team. But that team did have 3 Power 4 junior college players that on the same team. So it's unusual, but it could work. But they have the parts to at least give it a shot.
Mike, Rich Rod was also really, I guess, excited about his wide receivers. And Jaden Bray, who had a really nice opener last year, then he gets hurt, he's out for the year, just hasn't been able to stay healthy. But I saw that Pat White is like holding off on retiring his numbers so that Bray can wear number 5, which tells me a lot about Bray's character. And we sat down with him at media days. But just collectively, is Rich Rod blowing smoke, or is there potential there with that room?
There's potential for sure. It's just going to depend on, can they keep Bray healthy? That's been more than half his career a no. And it's been separate injuries, so it's not like it's just like one thing that goes bad. But there's a label for players like that I hate to even use because it's a physical, violent game. But sometimes people are injury prone. I think you're probably going to look more at, if he can do it, that's fine. He's a talented player, but you need 2 or 3 other guys. And can they get something out of Teron Francis, who was a big-time recruit at LSU, who redshirted as a true freshman last year? That's unusual, right? Can they get something out of Prince Strawn, who had 2 pretty productive years at Boise State and then made a big play in his debut at USC last year, but also had a season-ending injury on the same play and never really got it going. John Nider was like the state player of the year as a quarterback at UConn and just willed his way into playing time on special teams, and then on offense, it became very productive for a very good offense at UConn. And then the one that's probably going to pop right away, I think, is DJ Epps, who was a slot receiver at Troy, who just fits what they want to do here, but who didn't really play or produce much his first 3 years and had a great season last year. So can they, package all of these parts and then get into where they want to be or where they haven't been before? Can they get Bray healthy? Can they get Strawn healthy and productive? One or two would be great. Can they get Teron Francis on the field because he can play inside and outside? Can John Nider, keep this story from, high school player of the year as a quarterback in Connecticut to power 4 receiver? Yeah, you could be excited about it, but you need to see it produced. But again, last year you just didn't have the confidence that they had the players to do what they wanted to do. You have some production and some proof of concept here, albeit at different levels, not quite here. But truth be told, if they're really good blockers and they're possession receivers who make plays every so often, that's what they're going to want to do. This offense will go as far as the quarterback and the running game take them on the ground, and then just getting complementary contributions, maybe critical ones too, from the receiver. So not to say you have to do less, but there's not a great burden on them like you would see in other places.
Mike Casazzi, Ear Sports, as somebody that covers obviously West Virginia, but also the conference and writes a ton about the conference at large, what are some of the big storylines or angles that are top of mind for you right now when it comes to the conference?
Quarterback's a big one. Just like the depth of quarterback play. I honestly think the West Virginia's the only one that has a competition right now. Maybe Kansas, because I just wonder how long they can keep Cole Ballard there when they have Marshall there as well. I think it's Zeke Marshall. But really, everybody's going into their camp with who they have as a known. And maybe West Virginia's eventual starter is better than some of them. But I think that West Virginia would feel better if they knew right now. The truth is they're probably going to play both until one just clearly separates from the other. But I just wonder if they're in the best position there. But I think that they're probably middle when it comes to quarterback. They're not one of the 6 best, not one of the 4 worst, but they're probably right in the middle with potential to go much higher. And then I look at the number of there are a lot of really good transfers that went out of the conference, of course, or even moved in the conference, but a lot of high level or like power 4 transfers came into the conference, and West Virginia did some of that as well. I mentioned one LSU player. They have a couple LSU players. They have some players who have bounced around a little bit too, but there's a ton of talent turnover. There's been an infusion though too, where if a couple of schools get a couple players right, then they have a chance to really make a jump toward the top, and just feels like that somebody's going to be there at the end that you're always surprised about. Is it going to be Texas Tech and BYU? That's what the better say, but man, the odds just tell me this is going to be a wide open league, and that a quarterback or an offense can get hot, and you're going to have just some type of buoyant force in the transfer portal, because a lot of teams did a lot of good work, I think.
Now, Mike, one of my top 5 highest profile non-conference games for the Big 12 is the backyard brawl with West Virginia and Pitt. Now, the only problem with that is they don't play each other this season, which is super weird to me. Why did that series get paused or canceled or whatever you want to call it? I see West Virginia's playing Virginia, but there's no Pitt this season.
Yeah, UVA wasn't even supposed to happen. They were supposed to play ECU instead, which is an old story. That contract goes back to 3 athletic directors ago too, wow. And they just kept kicking that can down the road. So that was finally off the books, but they took a payday instead to go to Charlotte and play UVA, which is kind of a regional game. They haven't played since 2002, and man, probably the 80s since the last time they played in the regular season. So I'm not sure that matters to fans so much, but it's 2026. You go where the money takes you. They're going to make a couple $1 million to play in Charlotte, which is a good alumni base for them, but I don't think that means a whole lot to the fans. And that in place of a home game is weird to me. But again, it's a payday, and that in place of Pitt is an affront to a lot of people too. For a school that thumps its chest so much about we'd like to have our schedule look a certain way, and we want to have regional teams, Pitt's just like a slam dunk. I just think that if it could have happened, it would have happened. I think they both had ideas about doing something else. West Virginia was also supposed to be playing Alabama in a conference series. That went away. Alabama went to 9 conference games, so they had to get a team to go away. West Virginia mutually agreed, I think is the word they said. So they just had actually that might have been the game that was supposed to be this year. My bad, I take that back. But they did make the game go away a couple years ago too. So anyways, they've had these chances to beef up their schedule, but they also bit off way too more than they can chew, way too much more than they could chew the past couple of years. They were one of the few teams that was playing two Power Four teams in non-conference play. There were not a lot of them in the Power Four, and if no one else is doing it, why was West Virginia of all schools going to do it when they were winning 6 or 7 games? It was not like it was a leapfrog to the CFP, so they got out of that business, and that meant there might not be room for Pitt because it's much easier to play Pitt when you're playing two Power Fours. When you're only playing one, there's half as many openings. So, and the Pitt has scheduling concerns and criteria it has to meet as well. I do think there's a spot for it every year, but I also think that it's an even bigger deal now because if you look at some of West Virginia's schedules in the future, they're awful. They're awful home schedules. Like take a look at the 27 schedule, but like do so carefully because it's not very pretty. And like if you're a fan looking at like who am I gonna go buy these season tickets for, and Pitt's not there, but it's like Iowa State and Arizona State and schools that you just have no connection to, recently, historically, whatever. Then you really got to beef up your non-conference or at least get somebody friendly on there. And I don't think anybody gets the blood going here like Pitt does.
Well, just real quick. So 2027, West
Awful.
Virginia, yeah, Southern Miss, VMI in Ohio. I thought Big 12 teams had to play a power conference opponent.
So they do, but that's the second game of the Alabama series. It's supposed to go like when they got out of that one, it was late in the game. It's hard to add schools without paying a ransom for it. And the Big 12 said, you tried, we'll let it go this one time. So that's the exception there. But I'm if I have my facts right here, which I should, but I don't. I'm pretty sure this year and next year was Alabama in Morgantown and in Tuscaloosa. They made that go away. I don't know where the ECU game came from in my head, but I'm pretty sure they had to buy out the ECU game, just get off the schedule. And that may be where an extra game somewhere down the road came in. But my point being that they've done a lot of maneuvering in their non-conference, and they just haven't had a way to get Pitt in. But I think if they could, they would. For all the reasons I mentioned, and for all the reasons they mentioned before. They want regional schools, they want rivalries, they want to give some of their home fans. Because again, look at the home schedule in 2027. Like, look at the conference games in 27. There's not a lot of like bells and whistles there for people.
Yeah, well said. Mike Asaza at Ear Sports. Check out earsports.com and Country Roads Confidential. Mike, you're the best. Be well, man, and go White Sox.
Take care. All right, I'm not coming back next time.
Mike Asazi's got the Cleveland gear, Cleveland Guardians, White Sox, at a bit of a pennant race here in July. Should be a fun finish to the season. I was at Rangers ballpark last night. White Sox took 2 of 3 for the Rangers, who are still in first place despite being 51-51. So could maybe have a playoff series between the White Sox and Rangers in a few months here, which would be crazy. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Let's get it on next.
Johnson with the second takeaway for Arizona. That was going to remain on the sideline today. That one looks laminated. Look out here. Allen flung for a huge loss. We know he can spin it, but so do Dalton Johnson and the Cats.
Tonight getting his first career carries. Ball is loose. A lucky bounce for Bachmeier. Can he make the most of it? And that ball down the field is taken away for the second time tonight.
Gotta be a good punt. Salgado Medina does get it away. And this
Will be touched by Kansas State. And it goes right through his hands. And Johnson on the recovery. Johnny on the spot.
lineman being able to swing it that well. Look at this second level blitz, and the Cats get hands on it again. Dalton Johnson part of that wave, back-to-back pass breakups.
Out of the shotgun. Field break pressure. It's picked off. And it will be a pick 6 for Dalton Johnson. Wow, they got him at the 5. That was great defensive work. Wow, I thought no way they're going to catch up.
3rd and 22. Couple guys drop out. Sorsby in trouble. Gets it away complete. And he's wrestled out of bounds. Manny Covey.
Just where does the Big 12 find itself when it comes to its quarterbacks in the latest athletics quarterback tiers? We'll get into that coming up. Along with James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Shout out to our friends at Rally House for providing all this awesome gear that we have behind us. It's been a while since we were able to shout them out because we haven't been in studio. It's been 100 degrees literally in this studio. Finally, this building was able to get its AC back up and running. So we are actually feeling pretty comfortable and confident this morning.
I mean, you're wearing long sleeves.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about how wonderful it is.
I'm wearing pants
in this studio.
I had to show off my my thighs today. So, anyways, Rally House. Thanks to our friends at Rally House for this awesome merch. Visit rallyhouse.com and get your team merch now. All right, let's fight.
I'm ready.
Let's get it on.
All right, guys. Good. Look, guess what? We have music beds this time too. So we are back in the saddle. We're back on track. All right. So earlier this week, James, while you were out, Ari and I spoke with Max Olson.
Okay.
He had an article about Avery Johnson and Devin Dampier,
right.
eligibility and having a fifth year potentially. So which senior quarterback is more NFL ready? Because he talked about in his article about both of them wanting to go pro. Is it Avery Johnson or Devin Dampier?
Oh, this one's too easy.
It's clearly Avery Johnson.
Go for it.
I thought you were going to do it, so I just stole it. I mean, he's 6'3". I don't know what Devin Dampier's size is, but it ain't 6'3".
Let's get it on!
I mean, he's got legit dual threat, speed. I love Devin Dampier. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's highly flawed. And he's obviously, from a size perspective, he's got to be very, very good in order to be considered as an NFL quarterback given his size. I think just based on the measurables alone, the physical tools are there for Avery Johnson, which is why it's an easy answer here. Avery Johnson is not only more NFL ready, I'm not sure Devin Dampier will ever be.
Well, you thought I was going to say Avery Johnson. Clearly, it's Devin Dampier. My opponent's down 3 scores already because Devin Dampier is a guy who just wins everywhere he's been. He's the more experienced grinder, okay? New Mexico, Utah, then off to the NFL. 6,000 yards passing. Also, he had one down year when it came to interceptions. He's fixed that. The guy's very intelligent. He's cerebral. He's the bigger frame at 210 pounds. Avery Johnson had barely 100 carries last year because they were worried about him getting injured, getting hurt. Devin Dampier, nah, that dude's just a workhorse.
What is he, 5'9", 210?
He's at least 5'11". NFL scouts don't care about height, and it's 2026, okay? Kyler Murray can be the first overall pick. Baker Mayfield is contending for Super Bowl.
Let's get it on!
It doesn't matter how
Kyler
he
Murray
is.
worked out.
Yeah, that one wasn't great. The only knock on Devin Dampier is that he's 5'11", which isn't your prototypical Drew Mestamaker. I'm 6'9". I'm a giant. I'm an NFL-ready quarterback. But Devin Dampier's got the higher NFL ceiling. By the way, both guys can come back next year if they want. So if they don't get the grades from the NFL that they're hoping for, with this new 5-for-5 rule, both quarterbacks can return next season in 2027.
That's true, although Devin Dampier has indicated that he wants to go to the NFL next year.
Well, everybody wants to go to the NFL.
Avery Johnson has not indicated that yet.
Who doesn't want to go to the NFL?
Avery Johnson hasn't indicated it.
NFL,
I just have to say, the person who won that debate was Ari Tepkin because, James, you are a Kansas State alum. Why do you hate Avery Johnson so much?
Wow.
Why do you hate K-State so much? Unbelievable.
Just so we're all on the same page here. Okay, so Kyler Murray in his last year in the Big 12, he completed 69% of his passes for 4,300 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Devin Dampier last year completed 63% of his passes for 2,400 yards, 24 and 5. So basically, double his numbers from last year, and you get Kyler Murray's numbers.
Yeah, well,
and Dampier's numbers weren't even bad last year, but just double them, and you've got Kyler Murray's numbers from his last year.
dude, he was insane. He was insane.
Was
The problem is he got to the
insane.
NFL and he couldn't get off the PlayStation. Played too many video games.
That's it.
Sadly, he always beat my Cowboys. My Cowboys have never defeated Kyler Murray.
Where is he with the Vikings?
Yeah, he's with the Vikings now.
Unbelievable. All right, topic number 2, guys. All right, we've been talking about offensive lines as well, so I have to ask this question: Who will have a better offensive line this season? Will it be Cincinnati or BYU?
My opponent's clearly going to say it's BYU. But the big dogs up front in Cincy would like to have a word. Because they're posting, we're building billboards for these guys. Have you seen did you receive a pancake box from Big 12 Media Days? Because
I have to bring it in. It's been a while, and I forgot I needed to bring it back.
it's all these guys do.
By the way, anybody can get a billboard.
Defenders.
You and I can buy a billboard in downtown Dallas and say we're the best offensive line if we want.
You've got two guys, not one. Not one like they have at BYU. Team Schmeem, all right? It's all about the offensive line. Cincinnati has two guys, Evan Tingestal and Joe Cotton, both preseason All-Big 12, both preseason All-American caliber players, and you know the Pro Football Focus guys, they never miss. Okay, the rating for both of these guys, Tingestal had the highest mark among all Big 12 offensive linemen, 6th nationally as an offensive guard, and then you've got, this is an offensive line that was a semifinalist last year for the Joe Moore Award, and they bring back their top 3 offensive linemen.
Can I ask you a riddle?
Call me Jim Carrey. I'm here for it.
It's a very obscure reference.
He was the Riddler.
I know. If a tree falls in the forest, but no one's around, does it make a sound, James?
Yeah. Yes.
If you're a great offensive line blocking for nobody, are you really blocking?
You're blocking ghosts.
Or you're blocking, and then you look behind you and you're like, there's nobody here. What? What are we doing? That's the argument you just made, James. Congratulations. You were asked to identify at our consensus poll who had the better offensive line, the number 16th team on our consensus poll or the number 1 team on our consensus poll.
That's right.
You had both options available, and you decided on 16.
Absolutely. All-American status. Continue to airball those free throws that I gave you.
Let's get it on!
All-Americans.
Bruce Mitchell's the most accomplished offensive lineman in this entire conversation, so that's where my argument begins and ends. Beyond
accomplished? What did he accomplish?
First team
As
All
an
Big 12.
individual.
First team All Big 12.
By
You
the-
say that about Tengestal, Tayo, and Cotton?
Yes, literally, yes.
By the way, the winner of this debate goes to Mr. James Wesley.
What?
Because Ari said the other day that Cincinnati had the best O-line in the Big 12.
Pish posh.
Start calling you Greg Sankey.
Look, I should win just based on my riddle alone.
It's a great riddle.
Thank you.
It was
It really was.
It was good. Okay, James, you still have a chance to redeem yourself with Kansas State because this next question is based.
No, he doesn't. I get to go first.
This next question is based on our consensus poll, and with Kansas State and Utah having a lot of similarities. So, who will have the more successful first season, Con Klein or Morgan Scalley?
Ooh. You get to go first.
I'd love to make you argue against your Kansas State Wildcats, but I'm going to go Morgan Scalley here. This is an 11-win program from last season with a top 3 Big 12 quarterback. I'm not even sure what we're arguing here. While
Let's get it on!
Avery Johnson may be better positioned to be an NFL quarterback, I'm going to take Devin Dampier right now, today, given how these guys have played on the field for their respective teams over the courses of their careers. Plus, I mean, look, I get that the offensive line losses are tough, but that's been bulletin board material for them all year, and Utah has usually, as a program, been really stout up front on both lines of scrimmage, which is a big reason why I like it. We also heard from Devin Dampier about his relationship with Morgan Scalley. I think that says a lot about Scalley and just how he is as a coach and how relational he is and what he's been doing behind the scenes before he's taken the job. I think he's way readier for the job than Con Klein is because he's been on staff, he's been on campus, he's been at Utah, he knows exactly the culture, he knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak. This is an easy answer here. It's Morgan Scalley. Not even sure K-State will win 5 games this year.
Wow. Well, my opponent woke up and clearly chose misinformation. Because Kansas State is going to be favored in at least 9, maybe 10 of their games this season. They have the easiest metrics-based in-conference schedule, and their marquee non-conference opponent, Tulane and Washington State, should win both of those. Colin Klein turned around, number one, the Kansas State offense in the 1 year he was the offensive coordinator. It was a record-setting year, and they won a Big 12 championship. Then he goes to Texas A&M, and 2 years later, they're in the college football playoff. That's not a coincidence to me. I love what he said about Avery Johnson being unlocked. Sure, he's not going to have 200 or 300 carries like Colin Klein did as a player, but Avery's going to have an uptick and be more impactful in the rushing game. Also, he takes over a program that had a blip year. Not a program that needs a complete overhaul and saving. K-State's 6 losses were all by 1 score or less outside of the Texas Tech game. So 5 of the 6. Colin Klein's the man. It's K-State. Better first season. And K-State almost beat Utah last year if it wasn't for a 4th and 150-yard run by Devin Dampier. They didn't even belong in that game. The season was over for K-State. Utah was a 10-win football team and barely beat them at home last year. It's K-State.
I forget. Is a barely win count still as a win?
It's K-State.
Yeah, I mean, K-State had Utah beat except for that 51-yard run by the quarterback.
K-State was basically playing their entire roster with 1 cleat and still had Utah on the ropes. Inexcusable. We do moral victories here in Manhattan. All right?
I'm going.
And Taman does moral victories because he's a Cowboys fan.
It's true.
I was going to give you the win, but I'm going with Ari on
Yes.
that. Ooh. Taking shots. All right, next question. Guys, I know you guys have
Great
heard.
shot, by the way. That was a classic line.
I know you guys have heard about the quarterback issue in Texas Tech, right? I mean, it's only been the story all offseason, but this is actually a different question. Who will start the first game against Abilene Christian? Will it be Will Hammond or will it be Kirk Francis?
Taman just threw a pick 6 because it won't be either. It'll be Lloyd Jones III.
Wow.
The kid who came in and threw 6 passes against West Virginia last year completed 5 and 2 touchdowns to Micah Hudson late in the game. Joey McGuire was raving about him at Big 12 Media Days. He's been in the system now. He's been in the program. They've already shown they're confident enough to put him on the field. So you can have your pick, Hammond or Francis, because it's going to be Lloyd Jones III.
Are you guys listening? Really listening, right? My kids listen insofar as that they hear audible sounds coming out of my mouth, but whether they're taking those audible sounds, using their brain to decode what that means, it's entirely different. Are you guys listening? Have you not heard Joey McGuire? Have you been listening to Joey? He's told everybody and anybody with a microphone that Will Hammond is going to be available to play for Texas Tech Week 1. I mean, he said it. Anybody that stuck a microphone in his face at Big 12 Media Days, he said it to them. He said it at the Texas High School Coaches Association. Are you guys listening?
The question is
Will Hammond.
Who's available to start. The question is who's starting.
It's Will Hammond. Joey McGuire has spent the last month telling everybody who will listen that Will Hammond is going to be the starter. What are we talking about here?
I have to agree with Ari. Even last year when the controversy was between Will Hammond and Baron Morton, Joey McGuire said Baron Morton's our starter.
Yeah.
He's been saying this year that Will Hammond will be available Week 1.
Joey McGuire tells no lies. Kyle Whittingham, he is not. Whittingham lies like a Persian rug.
Well, he's in Michigan now.
He's a Michigan man, which makes
Taman, I'm offended.
Which makes
That's
the
2 in
line.
a row for Ari, and I'm personally offended.
You know what? Tough.
Well, if not for your great Cowboys line, it would be 1-1.
All right, last one, guys.
Not offend the scorekeeper.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's an
move.
automatic win for the opposition.
That was a bold move.
All right, last one, guys. We talked about the Big 12 basketball preview yesterday. So the last 2 Big 12 teams to make the Final Four, Arizona and Houston. So 2027, who is most likely to get back to the Final Four in 2027, Houston or Arizona?
So we're talking about basketball now.
Yeah.
I think the obvious answer here is Arizona. So Houston returns just of substance, JoJo Tugler, yes? They do have Master P's son is back. The guy that emerged late is back. What was his name, the three-point shooter?
Chase McCarty, Mercy Miller.
Yeah, Mercy Miller is Master P's son. Chase McCarty is the guy that emerged. Arizona's got Krivas and Karchenkov back. I don't need to hunt in my memory for their names. I remember them because they're really good. I think they have arguably the Big 12 Player of the Year back. Maybe JT Toppin has a good case for that, but he's not part of this question. So the answer here is clearly Arizona. They had their best season last year. They returned 2 of their most important players. Plus, I love what they did in the portal. The answer here is obviously Arizona.
My opponent is desperately seeking a 2-minute warning, which there is none. It's Houston. Basketball starts.
Spoiler alert, there's no 2-minute warning. You ain't going nowhere.
If defense wins championships, I build my roster with the reigning 2-time All Big 12 defensive selection in JoJo Tugler, who is 2 years removed from being the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and actually may have won it last year. Kelvin Sampson.
No, he didn't. He did not win it last year.
Who won the Defensive Player of the Year? Was it Badunga?
The guy that is now at Louisville. I forgot his name.
Let's get it on!
Flory.
Flory can't shoot. Can't shoot ya?
Like that.
Thank you.
It rolls off the tongue. It's my first thought. Chase McCarty is an absolute three-point assassin. That's all he did last year. He came in, shot threes, went for like 30 against Oklahoma State when they needed him to. Nobody knew anything about Milo Suzan or Emmanuel Sharp because these guys were on the bench, and then their first team All Big 12 guys, and Houston's gunning for a national championship. Also, Kelvin Sampson has more NIL than ever before. So he has built a roster that could arguably be his most talented for this season. The kid from Kent State is a baller. Daydan Thomas from LSU, absolute freak at the point guard position. Then you've got Mercy Miller, who also started to see an uptick in minutes. So when you combine the experience with the newcomers, Arizona brought in a bunch of McDonald's All-American freshmen. That's fine. Houston did the same thing. They've got Deanne in the middle. The guy's an absolute beast. Going to make Chris Sinak look like chump change.
How many 5-stars did Houston add this year?
They got one.
Did they have one?
They got one.
Or they have 0?
No, they got one. Deanne's a 5-star.
4-star?
5-star.
They don't have Caleb Holt. That I know for sure. They don't have Tyron Stokes either. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. I had to throw Kansas in there because it's sort of a abomination that Kansas wasn't part of that question. I'm not saying he should have been, but it's an abomination that they weren't. All right, the Athletic has their quarterback tiers. We break that down next. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Big misses there. In fact, some egregious Athletic quarterback tier misses that I'm ashamed of, quite frankly. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Glad to see your family as that ball is picked up by Clark, the captain at the back end, plucks it away for TCU. Got to get it to the 29, third down, Lopez to the outside, and it's intercepted, and it's going to be a walk-in touchdown for the veteran Bud Clark, his 12th career pick. Robertson, pressure inside, and he's dropped. Bud Clark gets the sack, his first sack of the season, and it comes out to 20.4 miles per hour, 4th fastest for a safety in the FBS.
But the number 2's Logan got in the way. Douglas, he is hammered. Look at those guys in purple, all arriving in a bad humor.
Take a look here at Bud Clark come down and make this play. Now, he doesn't get him down initially. However, he stops the play from happening and the rest of his teammates can come and race to the tackle field.
Lopez gets hit, and it's a strike that he threw in there.
Quick pass. Gallagher in space. Wrapped up right there by Bud Clark, the elder statesman.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. So great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. And a reminder to check out the brand new and incredible Big 12 app featuring Big 12 Radio. You can check us out there, of course, plus breaking news, scores, and everything in between. Your hub is now the Big 12 app. Check it out now. The Athletic ranked all 138 projected college football starters into tiers for 2026. But the caveat here is they really got some insight from NFL GMs, from coaches, administrators. They got a lot of insight into their quarterback tiers from reputable people, right? So it's not just one writer or a few writers sitting down and coming up with quarterback tiers. This is just the accumulation of quotes and comments from talent evaluators to figure out how to rank these quarterbacks. I think the number one thing that stands out from a Big 12 perspective is just how high Drew Mestemaker is thought of by NFL evaluators. And so the best Big 12 quarterback has never taken a Big 12 snap. And what's also interesting about that is another Tier 1 quarterback, arguably the best SEC quarterback, has also not taken an SEC snap, which would be Sam Leavitt. Oklahoma State's Drew Mestemaker is the only Tier 1 quarterback in the Big 12. The other Tier 1 quarterbacks are Trinidad Chambliss, Dante Moore, CJ Carr from Notre Dame, Darian Mensah, Julian Sayin, Arch Manning, and Sam Leavitt.
I love the process of how they assembled this list, right? They talked to, it's not just an opinion piece for the writers from The Athletic. Like you noted, they're talking to NFL scouts and general managers, coaches who remained anonymous, and other guys that are a lot better talent evaluators than these guys writing this piece. Really encouraged, actually, to see two Big 12 quarterbacks in the top 10. Because every other way too early quarterback rankings list that I've seen from ESPN and CBS and Sporting News, no Big 12 quarterback even scratches the surface of being in the top 10. So to have two, that tells me that NFL scouts and opposing coaches who have actually seen these guys and played against them and evaluate them as individuals and talent feel that they're better than the credit they're getting. Noah Fafita checks in at number 10. They only have 8 quarterbacks in their first tier. So that was kind of where I start, is really encouraged to see two Big 12 guys getting their flowers that deserve it.
Yeah, now what's interesting, though, about that is, the Big 12's outbound quarterbacks are ranked very high on these lists. Josh Hoover is Tier 2 quarterback. Rocco Becht is Tier 3. Sam Leavitt is Tier 1. And then you look at, Mestemaker Tier 1, but then Lagway, Jaden Craig, Cutter Boley, Jalen Rayner, J.C. French, Michael Hawkins, Alonzo Barnett, right? So just the cumulative addition is guys that are trying to improve where they are versus guys that leave and have an improved standing because of it.
Well, and
that to me speaks to, like, if Rocco Becht were still at Iowa State, would he be Tier 3 or would he be lower than that? Would Josh Hoover be Tier 2 if he were still at TCU, or is he getting a bump for Indiana?
Totally agree. And I think there's proof of that, because you've got Lenora Sellers at South Carolina, who had a horrendous season last year. 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, barely completed 60% of his passes. He checks in at number 18. This is ranking every single FBS quarterback 1 through 136. DJ Lagway, who also had a down year last year on paper, checks in, I believe, somewhere in the mid-40s. Those are two guys that are nearly identical in terms of not only their stats, but guys that NFL scouts are obsessed with, because they're both like 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. Sellers runs a 4.4. I think Lagway's not quite that fast, but he has the stronger arm. So why the gap between Sellers at 18 and Lagway in the mid-40s, when side by side they're almost identical in terms of their story and their pedigree and their just raw athletic ability?
So the distribution works as such. The Big 12 has 1 Tier 1 quarterback, 1 Tier 2 quarterback, 3 Tier 3 quarterbacks, 6 Tier 4 quarterbacks, 2 in the 5th tier, 2 in the 6th tier, and 1 in the 7th tier, which is Kansas, Cole Ballard. So the majority of the quarterbacks, 9 of the 16 are in Tier 3 and Tier 4. So Texas Tech, K-State, TCU, Baylor, Arizona State, UCF. Basically, like what we've been talking about throughout the summer, the road to Arlington. There's definitely a lot of parity in this league, whereas the SEC and the Big Ten are way more top-heavy, especially when it comes to the quarterback spot.
Yeah, and in those two leagues, and especially with the SEC, like this list is banking on guys that have barely played or not played at all. Kamario Taylor is number 32 at Mississippi State, ranked ahead of an Avery Johnson. I believe he's just behind Bear Bachmeier, but he's ranked ahead of Will Hammond, and he's ranked ahead of Jaden Craig and Cutter Bowley. He only played in 3 or 4 games last year for Mississippi State. He had 5 touchdowns and 1 interception, but his completion percentage was barely over 50%. And then Keelan Russell, mop-up duty, right? Barely saw the field. Even preserved his red shirt if he wants it. 2 touchdowns, no picks. Number 33. So the inexperienced guys at SEC schools get ranked ahead of guys that have proven it on the field, and even in the case of Cutter Bowley, in the SEC. But now that he's at Arizona State, he checks in at number 40. So there's narratives and perception that are impacting this list.
Yeah, some of the other specifics for each Big 12 quarterback. So for Connor Wegman, Tier 3, it says, nobody was wowed by his traits. Quote, solid throwing the football, kind of pushes it, not an elite arm talent. Gritty, not elite arm talent. That was the exact Trinidad Chambliss scouting report 12 months ago. Now, with that being said, like, I think the Houston case for winning a Big 12 or at least getting to Arlington doesn't exactly need Connor Wigman to be elite, right? You just kind of need him to make plays when they're there, but it's about this team is really built to win with its defense. And then, Shadre Hurst arriving, that should allow for a little bit more time up front. That's been a huge focal point for Houston throughout this offseason, to be very pointed and not just the additions they made on the offensive line, but noting how poor they were on the offensive line, and that was a reflection of their offensive output.
Well, and when you look at the Big 12 quarterbacks ranked in the top 30, the top 3 tiers, right? I don't have any huge rebuttal for where they have these guys ranked. Connor Wegman did have to push the ball down the field because he was playing with a limp shoulder. He's stronger. He has more velocity on his throws than ever before, at least according to him and Willie Fritz, who both noted that at Big 12 Media Days. Bear Bachmeier at number 30. When you look at his touchdown numbers and the system that he was operating within, I see why he's ranked at number 30. All the guys in front of him had more touchdowns outside of 1 or 2. It's really when you get into that 4th and 5th tier where I think guys like Avery Johnson, guys like Will Hammond, guys like Jaden Craig could be rated higher. And then the other kid I was thinking about, who escapes me now, Julian Lewis at Colorado. If we're ranking some of these guys based off of their high school recruiting rating, based off of their pedigree, without actually seeing them on the field, you could make a case that Julian Lewis has more of a resume than Kamario Taylor or Keelan Russell, because he was just as highly rated, just as high of a recruit, and he actually had better passing numbers from the last 4 games in which he played in.
A couple other notes here to point out. So Will Hammond is Tier 4. If this holds, Tech might win the Big 12, but they will not win a college football playoff game. I'm optimistic about Will Hammond. I think this will not hold. I think Tier 4 is an egregious miss. And I think he will end up a much higher quarterback after it's all said and done. They also make a pretty good case for Baylor as a dark horse. DJ Lagway is Tier 4. They talk about the traits that are inarguable, the flaws, very specific. And multiple panelists independently flagged the Spavital pairing as the right fix. So there's a couple of situations here in which, the people that were surveyed for this acknowledge that, hey, while it might not have worked for this quarterback in one spot, the quarterback, offensive coordinator, quarterback's coach mixing and pairing is a really good thing. The other one was Julian Lewis at Colorado. They also point out the Brennan Marion go-go offense is perfect. And then the last one would be Jalen Rayner, who we probably didn't point out enough. His Arkansas State offensive coordinator Heckendorf is now his quarterback coach. So there's some familiarity there with Rayner coming over with Heckendorf.
Well, and with Lagway, the quote from an anonymous Big 12 offensive coordinator was, when you watch his tape at Florida, his decision-making was a big issue. Well, he has addressed that head-on with that VR headset where he's learning coverages, reading defenses better. So if that was the issue and it was nothing else, that's a major positive for Baylor. And then even Dane Brugler is the quote that the for the scouting take. Like, I think it's important to remind people how good he was as a freshman. I mean, NFL scouts said he was a future top 10 pick, not just first round pick, top 10 pick in the NFL draft, because he was that good as a true freshman. When really, you don't know what you don't know when you're that young. You're just out there playing ball. So if the decision making and he can combine those two things, if there's an uptick there, look out.
Just a few other pieces to point out, I think, here. So Parker Fleming, a friend of ours, did a really good job to take these and then basically compare and contrast them on a graph to different numbers, including ESPN's strength of schedule. Oklahoma State, with the league's only Tier 1 quarterback and a middle band schedule. Basically, ESPN strength of schedule listed Oklahoma State schedule somewhere between 40 and 59. So that's a really good quarterback schedule combination. Tiers versus offensive SP+. This was really interesting. Kansas has a Tier 7 quarterback. So Cole Ballard, one of the lowest rated starting quarterbacks, that's the projection they have at Kansas. But SP+, Bill Connolly from ESPN has Kansas was a top 30 SP+. So either SP+ is crediting Kotelnicki's system to the point where the quarterback doesn't matter, or 3 dozen scouts are wrong about the quarterback room that they admit during their breakdown they have not seen. There's a lot of we don't really know much about the quarterback room, so we put Kansas Tier 7. So that one feels like a huge miss on their part, too.
And Kansas has the 16th oldest roster in all of college football. They have experience. There's a lot of unknowns, but you said it with Andy Kotelnicki. That's the guy. That's the guy, and the most important piece of whoever's playing quarterback.
All right, that's a look at the athletics quarterback tiers and some of the things we agree with and disagree with. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Our buddy Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle is next. This is Big 12 Today.
Play
Presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Along with James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle is joining us here now on Big 12 Radio. Joseph, how are you?
Good morning, guys. A little bit later that we're doing this. I usually get the 7 a.m. hour?
That's right.
So I appreciate the extra hour of sleep.
Are we having you on today to talk about your book? What are we talking about today?
Now that we can't go there just yet. It's close.
Okay.
I got a few tweaks, but we'll get to that at some point, man.
Okay, can we tease it?
Yeah, we can do that.
So you've got a book coming out that is, I want to let you explain it so that I don't butcher it.
It's called Kelvinisms, and it's a 12 years in the making. It's essentially Kelvin Sampson's words, and when that can mean a whole lot of different things, but it's sort of just a collection of his greatest lines from the past decade. And you've had him on the show. You know how great of an interview he is. This covers everything from inspiration to wisdom to just some really good one-liners. And I just was at my computer one day about 8 years ago and said, you know what? This would make a good book one day. And I just started putting it together. And lo and behold, here in the next maybe month and a half, should be out and available. And it's going to be typical Kelvin. And it's got some really good lines in it.
Wait, how many years ago did you start assembling this?
Yeah, probably year 3 of his tenure. So he's going into 13 now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to really work hard to cut it down. I think I got about 220 of his best lines in there. So it was sort of every time he'd have one, I would post it on social media, Kelvinism. And I finally got the nerve, I guess, to dive into really putting this out there. And like I said, in a couple of, month and a half or so, we should be good.
That's amazing. A 10-year project. That's incredible. Congrats on that, Joe. Can't wait to read it. I'm sure it's a children's book, knowing Kelvin and kind of the way he speaks. I'm sure it's something we can read to the kids.
It's okay. There's just the puppy poop in the rain is probably his most inflammatory line and the whole thing. So, yeah, I think it'll resonate with young and old.
Oh, that's epic.
But there's a line in there. He says, age is defined by wisdom, not by number. So, yeah, so it applies to everybody.
All right, Joseph, what's the high today in Houston?
Officially at 8:43 or so. I think we're pushing 90 maybe, but that's just what they say. That's just the tip of things for today, guys. I mean, you guys live up in the Metroplex. You know what we're dealing with down here.
Yeah.
Of course, people in Houston will still say our heat is much better than Dallas heat. Isn't that how the rivalry goes?
I like it. Well, what I'm getting at is, earlier we were going over some Big 12 schedule stuff. And with Houston, like their last 4 or 5 games, they're going to have cold weather games, like nasty, windy, blustery games in Boulder, Colorado, Morgantown, West Virginia, Salt Lake City, Utah. I guess what type of an impact could that have on Houston, and does that actually magnify how challenging those games could be?
I think that's one way to look at it. I appreciate you giving me a heads up. I haven't been to a lot of those places in a long time or ever, so
that's where you're going.
I'll be able to pack accordingly. But everybody is sort of focused on the on-field part of it, and you make a good point. You got to factor in where you're playing that type of year. I don't know if that will play too much of a role. Willie has sort of run the type of ship you'd expect since he's been here. They prepare and they don't let things surprise them. So unless we're talking about a game that's played under a foot of snow, and it just renders both offenses, moot. I think they get by it. I mean, it'd be like if you have a team coming in here in September and like Oregon State's going to have to deal with an 11 a.m. kickoff in the early September. That's going to be hot. Or you have a game where there's potential downpour because of a tropical storm out in the Gulf. It's probably one factor, but I don't think it's like an overriding deal. That last month of the season, if Houston gets to the point where they're in the race still, it sets up really nicely because the teams that they don't play this year are probably just as important as the teams they do, because come November, the schedule, at least on paper, looks very favorable for Houston, even games that are on the road.
Awesome. You've got a couple of really good pieces out that I want to highlight, including one on Mekhi Hughes and then another on Jalen Mayo, how Jalen Mayo went from 0 offers out of high school to Houston Cougars cornerback.
Yeah, he's that's going to be interesting because they added another piece to what I thought was already the strength of the defense. They they've got a lot of experience back there, the all Big 12 corner and Will James. You get Kentrell Webb and Jordan Allen at the safeties, and then you throw in a guy who, I mean, just like he said, he went from Division II to FCS to playing in the Big 12. And it was kind of ironic that last year Houston opened against Stephen F. Austin. He was on the other side of it, had a great game, just really didn't let anything happen coverage-wise. And it sort of was an audition for him. He didn't know it would necessarily be Houston, but when his old coach at Stephen F. Austin, position coach Marcus Trice, moved to Houston in the offseason, it was just the perfect fit. But, this is a guy who has worked for every inch that he's gotten in his college career. And it's a good story because, there was nowhere. There were no offers, nothing. And we've seen guys like that, whether you're a no-star guy who sort of climbs the ladder, but he's a guy that could come in and really make an impact for them at one of the starting cornerback spots this year.
Well, and then what happened with Mekhi Hughes at Oregon and just kind of that reunion with him and Willie Fritz? He was an All-American when he was at Tulane.
Yeah, you look at it, he had close to 2,800 rushing yards in 2 years at Tulane, and he decides, I'm going to try something new, goes to Oregon. He was the top transfer back in the portal 2 years ago, and it never worked out. I'm not sure if it was based on opportunities. Talking with Willie this week, it just seems like the chance to show just never materialized. He plays in the 4 games and decides, hey, you know what, I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna redshirt. And then he reunites here with Houston. But, this is a guy from a production standpoint. There weren't many that were better. And the emphasis of the story this week was this is a guy that is a bell cow. He's an every down type back. And the other key thing is you don't bring him down easy. He does not go down on first contact. He had 72% of his rushing yards, guys, of that 2,800 that were after contact. So that just shows you right there that this is a guy out of the backfield. He can give you those tough yards. And Willie Fritz likes to run the ball. He had over 220 carries, I believe, both seasons. You don't see that a lot in college football or any football anymore. You just don't see that type of wear on a back. But the fact that he didn't have a lot of carries last year, I think that bodes well because there's not a lot of mileage on him right now, and he sort of has that edge where he knows he's got something to prove, and that says a lot when you've already proven a lot in the 2 years that you were at Tulane.
We were with you at Big 12 Media Days, but then Houston sort of had its own media days the last few days. Anything stand out to you about what you heard there?
Yeah, kind of a repeat of some of the things from Frisco. Connor Wegman, I think, is going to be a huge storyline this year based off of the production he had last year. Me personally, today is the last day, and to me it's the most interesting because you got the old linemen. And I know a lot of people will say, they're just old linemen. That's a key for Houston this year. They went and they upgraded the O-line, and I'm interested to see how those pieces fit. Shadre Hurst, I've actually spent the last few days asking players about who's the strongest guy on the team, and 20 for 20 out of the players I've talked have all said Shadre Hurst. This guy is a freak of nature. His numbers that he's putting on the, I'm not a weight guy. I don't get there and lift, but they're talking about 4 plates on the rec, and I asked, well, what's a good number? They're like, well, 3's sort of really good. 2 is about average, or what people that are in the weight room. This guy's putting 4, and they were just like, it's like a show, like a must-see TV segment when he's in there. They all gather around him. So he's a guy that I think is a huge piece of the puzzle as Houston tries to get to Arlington that first week of December.
Yeah, that's insane. And we heard the same thing from the guys that we talked to about Shad Ray Hurst. I would love to know who has the best nickname on this Houston football team, because there are some bangers.
I liked Turtle. Turtle's not bad, but it's not because the guy's slow. Apparently the doctor said, hey, Mom, your embryo at your ultrasound looks like a turtle. That's kind of a oddly strange way to get a nickname. That's Travell Frederick. Now that you put me on the spot, I'm trying to think of all the different ones that I've had this week. The one that got the most reaction, tight end Luke McGarry, he goes by Leroy. Nobody knew that his name was Leroy. So, I mean, it's kind of a weird one. Kentrell Webb, he goes by Spida. I think that's kind of cool, Spider Webb. So there's a few. I'm probably missing. Oh, Sauce, Trent Walker. Sauce is pretty legit. Trent Walker's the wide receiver that they brought in from Oregon State. He was a walk-on there, so his first 2 years to make money, he was reffing basketball games and flipping burgers. So I asked him, hey, what's your specialty? He's like, man, I'm just a plain cheeseburger guy. And he liked it. He liked my follow-up question. I'm like, bacon or no bacon? And he was like, yeah, it depends on the mood, but I put some pepper jack or some sharp cheddar. So Sauce, I guess that's what you get on the side with him. And they hope that there's plenty of sauce where that came from this year with him at receiver, because it'll take a lot of pressure off Amari Thomas.
Yeah, well said. Great stuff as always, Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. You're the best, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddies. Talk to you later.
Talk to you.
See you, Joe.
Joseph Duarte joining us here, Houston Chronicle, Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Some great nicknames there. On the way next, we're spending some time going through the audio that we heard from coaches and players at Big 12 Media Days, recapping what we heard from Arizona and Arizona State. We're talking big picture takeaways from Big 12 Media Days from the Wildcats and the Sun Devils. That's next. This is Big 12 Today with James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. We're presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Second and 8 at the 26. And they'll move straight ahead. Nothing doing. That's right. Dominic Orange in the middle. The bigs.
They're doing this with only 5 guys in the interior defenders. And they're going against 6 guys, including the tight end. But look how fast the safeties trigger downhill. They get in there to defend the run. That's the key to this structure of defense. Gus, they play 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 defense.
Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. So great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in Big 12 Studios. Along with James Wesley on social at James Wesley. I'm Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports. All right, so we had two very impactful days at Big 12 Media Days a couple of weeks ago. You heard over the last week plus all interviews that we did, and so now we were going to spend some time recapping and trying to add some context to what we heard at Big 12 Media Days across every school. And so let's focus our attention now on Arizona. Arizona Wildcats coming off a 9-win season last year.
Yeah.
Huge surprise. Had one of the best defenses in the Big 12. Very opportunistic, especially taking the football away. This is clip 3. Here's what Brent Brennan said to us about the best teams that he's ever been a part of.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, the best teams I've ever been a part of were player-led. And so, with the guys that, the great players that we just talked about and those guys that have been in the program and are kind of committed and connected to the University of Arizona, how much are they willing to drive it? How are they willing to drive the offseason, the summer, the dog days when no one's looking and no one's out there and there's no fans in the stands and it's just you and your boys getting after it in the Tucson sun? And I think that part I'm excited about because of the leadership on our team, because of the great players that chose to come back to the U of A this year and let it ride one more time.
All right, so, player-led team, and this is a team that is being led by a player in Noah Fafita, the fifth-year quarterback for Arizona, and here's what Brennan said about Fafita.
Toughness. He is so incredibly tough, and you don't always see that show up in the quarterback position outside of the fact that every time he gets rocked, he gets back up and gets under center, gets in that shotgun again, and gets ready to let it rip. He is really, really special that way.
And the Noah Fafita for Heisman campaign started at Big 12 Football Media Days. They had flyers, and it had a list of everything he's done on the field, everything he does off the field, which was even more impressive than his on-the-field accolades. And then it had a full, bullet point breakdown of his strengths. And Brent Brennan was addressing those and saying that toughness is the number one thing. Everything that you see in terms of his accuracy, his ability to read defenses, to find the open guy, which I think on paper – and just watching him play is his number one skill set. Brent Brennan disagrees. He says it's his toughness. So if your best teams are the teams that are player-led, there's no better player to be leading your football team.
Yeah, well said. We asked Brent Brennan about the defense and replacing guys in the secondary, and here's what he said.
Well, I think, number one, it starts with getting pressure on the quarterback. And so I think Coach Gonzalez and our defensive front, Coach Joe Salavea, that's going to be a huge focus, for us. Just, how do we find ways to get pressure on the quarterback, get him moved off his spot, mess with the timing of the throwing and catching. But then also you have that component of, all right, who's going to play in the secondary? And we got an all-conference performer in Javion Cole coming back. Gavin Hunter played a lot of good football for us. And then there's going to be a handful of guys that transferred in from the portal and some high school players that are kind of growing up that are going to be competing for some of those other spots.
All right, so this is where the rubber meets the road here in Arizona, right? The optimism, this is where you either go one direction or the other, right? So, replacing what they lost, their secondary is going to be really tough. Brent Brennan's answer there is, well, we're going to be better at rushing the passer to throw off their timing, and that will help our secondary. So last year, were they great at getting after the quarterback? They were okay, but it was the secondary and the playmakers that they had that made that defense as opportunistic as it was. Well, they're going to have to be different this year, right? So if they're not as effective at taking the ball away, which some of those year-over-year trends tend to look at, then, they're going to struggle. But if they are able to be better at getting after the quarterback and having more sacks, well, then now you're going to be different and as good on defense in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question here is, well, can they still be good on defense but while playing a different way or being good in a different way?
Absolutely. And you look at the way their defense has been built this offseason, they have a ton of experience coming back in their front seven. Their secondary, outside of Cole, is entirely new. Now, with that said, Javion Cole is a really impressive and important piece of their secondary and a great starting point. If he's going to be your foundation, he's a guy that has an NFL future at corner. So you've already got one of your 4 or 5, depending upon your defensive package, spots locked down. Now, when it comes to the pass rush, and you're spot on, they were like middle of the road in the Big 12. But I think there were things they did schematically up front that bothered opposing quarterbacks. Maybe they didn't have the TFLs and the sacks that some of the other teams had, but Brennan noted there they were able to get opposing quarterbacks off their spot to make them throw off balance. If that is going to be a continuation this year, having Trey Smith back at defensive end is a massive improvement. He was hurt most of last year. He's a top 5 pass rusher in this league when he is healthy. So him being on the field is going to be huge for them this year.
Yeah, agreed there. And then one of their other best defensive players that's back is Tay Brown. And we asked him at Big 12 Media Days, like, how can you still be effective on defense?
I think it was just everybody being bought in. Everybody believing in the scheme, believing in Coach G, believing in all the coaches. I feel like that really played a huge part. Everybody just believed that we could be the top defense in the country, and we went out there and did it. And this year we just got to keep that momentum, and everybody just got to keep being bought in, keep just doing their 111, and we'll have the even better result.
I liked Tay Brown. He was the kid that told us he's a copious note taker. Old school. Doesn't do it on his laptop, doesn't do it on his phone. He handwrites notes in every team meeting and then distributes those to his teammates for those who want it. And he's a beast on the field. Like 100 tackles. You can't have a better anchor at middle linebacker or wherever he plays. When they're in a 4-2-5, it's kind of all over the place. So, like, I'm starting to see some pieces defensively that are more encouraging than maybe what I thought of Arizona defensively a couple of months ago.
Here's Arizona football coach Brent Brennan to us at Big 12 Media Days and how Arizona can take that next step, go from 9 wins to 11 wins.
So I think we got to score more touchdowns in the red zone than we did a year ago. We were efficient, points in the red zone, but I think we can take a step there. I think the having some consistency in our O-line, I feel like we've added some good pieces there, and some other pieces have grown up. So I think we feel good about what we're bringing back there, and then our ability to stop the run and get to the quarterback defensively. I think those things are critical. And I know everybody keeps focusing on the secondary, and I hear you. I hear you, man.
Right.
But at the same time, we got to find ways to get pressure and not make it so those guys have to cover for 10 minutes.
Can you name? I know I cannot. Can you name one offensive lineman for Arizona?
Should be able to.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the point I'm making is they just don't have those marquee anchor type guys that are preseason first team All Big 12, second team All Big 12. They didn't have any offensive linemen drafted. And I think that's one position group with Arizona that we overlook, where it's okay, they were good enough last year. Can they be good enough this year? But to win a Big 12 championship, you have to be elite.
Here's what Noah Fafita said about playing with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I think it does. It does give us a chip on our shoulder because at the end of the day, nobody really got to believe in us but us. So I think we all, as a collective, from the coaches to the players, we all know what we have, and we all know that we have a chance to do something special because of the coaches and the culture that they've instilled, the mentality that we have as players and the personnel. So I think we have a chance to go do something that maybe the world doesn't think is possible, but at the end of the day, as long as we believe and we work for it, anything's possible.
Arizona's schedule this year, I think there's this perception that it's a lot tougher than it was last year. But they played BYU last year. They lost that game in double overtime. They played Houston last season, lost on the road. They played Arizona State on the road. They beat their rival 23-7. They still had a very challenging schedule last year, especially when you factor in their game against Kansas State, which was a win for Arizona, by the way, was still a non-conference game because it was a scheduling agreement that happened way before this new era of Big 12 football. So, this perception that their schedule this year is going to be much more challenging, I don't know that I buy it.
So where are you on Arizona after everything we've done this offseason, ever our conversation at Big 12 Media Days?
I think based off of what they did last year, for some reason, the narrative is that it's going to be hard to repeat. They were a 9-3 regular season football team. But it wouldn't shock me. Now, I do see that they've got BYU and Texas Tech this year, and they're both on the road. So I think on paper you just chalk those up to teams playing in Lubbock and teams playing in Provo, and the Big 12 are going to lose that game. Like, would it shock you if Arizona was the team that pulled off one of those upsets? You know, I'm starting to believe that it shouldn't be that big of a surprise. But with that said, I see them about where they were last year. 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 if things go right.
All right, shifting gears to Arizona State as we're recapping what we heard from coaches and players during Big 12 Media Days a couple of weeks ago. Here's what Kenny Dillingham told us, clip 9, that he is excited about for this season.
I'm most excited about the work. Like, this team is putting in a ton of work, probably more work. Our teams and the culture, I think, has gotten better and better and better every year, but I think this team has really doubled down on the work. And I think that's part of it because, you know, there is nobody to really talk about in terms of there's not much being talked about us, which is great. And, you know, I think this team flourishes better when the spotlights aren't on us. And we can just go to what matters, and that's the work, the work, the work. So now that everything's about the work, I think that's what it fires me up the most.
Which is fascinating to me because remember, this time last year, there were some really lofty expectations for Arizona State.
Yes.
They had just taken Texas to the wire in the college football playoff. They had Sam Leavitt, who is being touted as a Heisman contender preseason. He gets hurt early on in the year, and they still recover in a way that they win 8 games. But this time last year, it's a night and day difference. Nobody's talking about Arizona State. This time last year, they were kind of a trendy pick to repeat as Big 12 champs.
It's a good point. And I think it plays right into what we just heard there from Kenny Dillingham. You know, last year you could pick out your press clippings and, you know, there was a lot of excitement and optimism, you know, which followed a year previous to that where there wasn't much. This feels more like 2 years ago. Like they're in more prove-it mode now than they were last year.
Yeah, last year, remember all the talk from Dillingham, and we had him on several times, and he was saying, yeah, I've got to, like, keep these guys level-headed. That was the challenge, that they don't start to feel too good about themselves.
By the way, he didn't, especially with his quarterback. It may not have been his fault, but it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Here's Dillingham said to us about the position group that has the most depth.
Running back.
Why?
I think we're deep. I think we're talented. I think the guys we brought in are good players, and then you have guys like Sip and Jason Brown and Man who have been there, and Grayson Rigdon, combined with the guys that we've brought in this year. So I think the competitive depth is really, really good. We've gotten bigger in that room. That was something that I wanted to do, was get bigger in that room. So I love the size that we have in that room now. So I just think that position group is a pretty undervalued position group.
Here's what one of the running backs, Kyson Brown, said about the running back room.
I got all the hunger in the world. I'm ready to attack this season. Coach Iguano always preaches that we hold the standard of, you know, that offense, and you know it's on us to make big plays. So I'm glad to hold that standard up, and I'm ready to make some plays.
There's definitely, James, excitement around the running back room. I get it. I sense it. And I think even with the loss of Raleek Brown who went to Texas, like there's still a lot of talent there, and there's a lot of reason for optimism. The quarterback room, though, is the interesting conversation. Most assume that it's going to be Cutter Boley. But I don't think it's that easy. I think it's going to be a legitimate battle, and Mikey Keene could very well win it. Kenny Dillingham talked about both of those guys, including his long-time relationship with Mikey Keene.
I remember Mikey, Arizona high school kid, always a productive player, always produced more than everybody thought he could around him, right? He was always an overachiever. And then we face him year one at Arizona State as a head coach. We play him, and he just torches us. We lose by like 28 points. I don't know. It was bad, though. We also had 8 turnovers. It was the worst game.
8?
7, maybe 8. I'm not being dramatic either. It was the worst game I've ever been a part of by far, in my opinion, just offensively. And so I remember him just torching us, so that was stuck in my mind. So he's just a distributor of the football. And I remember him just distributing the ball, distributing the ball.
Mikey Keene had a big day that day. And it does sound like it's maybe closer than what people think. And both positions, like Arizona State's going to be fine. They're going to be fine at quarterback. It doesn't matter who's the starter day one. They were fine last year with Jeff Sims at quarterback, right? Who on paper was having a better season than Sam Levitt. And same thing at running back. Like Kyson Brown, he's going to be a dude, okay? He only played in one game last year. He got hurt in their second game against Mississippi State, and he's from the state of Mississippi. Like, that was a really important game to him, and he got injured in that game. But in the limited sample size that we have of him healthy, he's a 6 yards per carry guy. He's elusive. He's quick. The previous year as the backup to Cam Scadaboo, he averaged 5 yards per carry. Like, they're going to be fine at both positions. I have no concerns.
All right, here is what Dillingham said about the other quarterback, Cutter Boley, who many expect to be the starter.
Cutter I've known since I recruited. Cutter came and visited Oregon when I was the offense coordinator at Oregon. So I had a lot of respect for him and him as a player. So the moment he hopped in the portal, I didn't even have to watch his tape because I knew who he was. I got to reach out and I got him on a visit. And I just remember how athletic he was, sneaky athletic. You know, he's a big dude, so you don't instantly think athlete. But I just remember how sneaky athletic he was, how good at basketball he was. And I'm a huge believer in guys who can do multiple things.
Oh, he's a hooper.
He was a hooper, yeah. Hey. He's an underrated hooper, too. He was a really good hooper in high school. So it was just it was just something that I knew was right because I had a little bit of a relationship with him.
Well, we know Kenny Dillingham loves kids that want to continually compete. So an example there with Cutter Boley and playing basketball, being a hooper. And look, I think this is going to be one of the more intriguing position group battles to watch across the Big 12. Not just because it's for the quarterback, but because like I believe that there's a case for Mikey Keene here. In some of these other battles, quote unquote, it's like, yeah, I'm not so sure this is a legitimate battle. This one is.
And for Arizona State and Coach Dillingham, talk about the ultimate dream scenario during the recruiting process for that position.
Yeah.
You get one kid that you've known since like 8th grade.
Yeah, but Kenny knows everybody, dude, especially
right.
the quarterback position. It feels like he knows every quarterback.
Yeah. And I know every coach recruits and scouts, and they know these guys, but to be able to grab two that you don't even have to watch any game film.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at any stats. Like, you know everything you need to know about those two guys, and they hit on both. I think that's huge.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. If you missed Brandon Whedon yesterday, you're not going to want to miss our conversations with one of the great all-time quarterbacks in the Big 12. Brandon Whedon joins us next. This is Big 12 Today.
Robertson. Uh-oh. That's picked off. Keith Abney with the pilfer.
West Virginia down 2 scores. They get a reprieve. Jacob Barrick fumbles and able to get it back. So on back-to-back plays as Keith Abney jars this one loose.
From the 24, blitz coming. Pennington steps up. And he goes down. Keith Abney the second, the corner blitz for the Sun Devils.
So far, ASU has not surrendered a gain of more than 10 yards. Here's one that can happen in a hurry. Knocked out. A fumble recovered by Miles Rouser. Timeouts left for Rich Rodriguez. This is a must-have. 4th down and 4. And ASU takes it away. Keith Abney calls game. He needs 4. Handles a high snap. Lets it go. Right pylon. It is. Incomplete. Chris Don the target and a matchup of ones. Keith Abney wins this round.
Big 12 today here exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, a guy that threw for over 9,000 yards and 70-plus touchdowns at Oklahoma State, an All-American quarterback. Brandon Weeden joins us here on Big 12 today. You completed 72% of your passes your last year at Oklahoma State, almost 5,000 yards passing. Brandon, super excited to have you on the program. Before we talk about your playing days, what do you know about Eric Morris? Have you met Eric Morris and just the life and energy that he brings to this Oklahoma State program? What are your impressions so far?
Yeah, I've been around him a few times. I took my boys up. We went up, and he invited me to come up to speak to some recruits, probably, I'm guessing 3-4 weeks ago. So I got to go up there and spend some time with him and the staff, and he invited, like I said, me and my boys over to the stadium and kind of hang out with the recruits and watch them do all their, I want to call it a fashion show. They get in uniforms and do all that stuff. That's all definitely changed. But, man, I tell you what, his energy, his ability to just relate to people, conversate with people. I mean, he's kind of a breath of fresh air. He really is. You know, he's so in tune with what's going on around him. You can tell he loves the relationships he builds with his players. I mean, he talks about it all the time, and you can see it when you're around him all the time. But I tell everybody he's kind of like a shot in the arm. I think, regardless if they go win 8, 9, 10 games, I do expect him to be better. But God, I love the energy he's bringing. So I'm hoping he kind of creates a pulse and gets this program kind of back to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And for your history playing the position and his history in coaching the position, I'm curious, kind of anything stand out to you about quarterbacking, talking with him about the position, because he's had so many good ones that he's developed over the years. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, his track record kind of speaks for itself. I mean, he does a great job at that position. Obviously playing the wide receiver position, he's, assuming just getting to know him what little I have. I mean, he probably played the wide receiver position with the quarterback mind, understanding defenses, understanding zones, understanding how to attack certain defenses. But you can definitely see that in his play calling. And I mentioned that when I was speaking to the recruits. I'm like, if I'm a quarterback or receiver, like, I want that guy calling plays for me. I mean, he's got a little bit of that Dana Holgorsen in him, just kind of a aggressive attack you style of offense and play calling ability. But he's just got a unique knack for understanding how to attack certain defenses, what to do scheme wise, tempo wise, things like that I'm really excited about. I think we need to get back to being a little bit more aggressive. I know personnel wise, we haven't been fantastic the last couple of years. We've had some issues, some glaring issues pretty much across the board. But I think we kind of got away from doing what made us great on offense for so long. I mean, even after I left, when Mason Rudolph was there, we're still slinging it and putting up some pretty crazy numbers. So, no, I think he understands the position, very quarterback friendly, knows how to teach it to make it simple. It seems like simple for everybody. They know what to do. They don't have to think. They can just go out and react, play fast. And I think that gives you the best recipe for success. I tell I've got a 12-year-old, and I actually talked to him about that last night. I installed 20 plays, and actually it was only like 12 because some of them were like one-way runs and then two-way runs. So there's really like 12 plays. And I told him that last night. I said, guys, look, if you can just learn these 12 plays when you're not thinking on the field, you can go out and you just react and you play fast and you can be more physical. And that kind of stems from, listening to coaches throughout the day, Dana Holgorsen, Todd Monken, those guys that preach that all the time. And, unfortunately now I'm getting old where I'm coaching my kid and I'm saying the same thing. So here we are.
Brandon Weeden back in 2011 led Oklahoma State to an 11-1 regular season, berth in the Fiesta Bowl. They won that game. He had 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Brandon, I had forgot that you played minor league baseball before you went back to playing quarterback for Oklahoma State. And Drew Mestemaker, he didn't even start for his high school team. So he's kind of inexperienced. What's the hardest thing for a young quarterback to learn that doesn't have anything to do with arm talent?
Well, I think adjusting to the speed will probably be a big adjustment for him. That week 2 game against Oregon, I mean, it's going to feel like somebody pushed fast forward. It's going to be fast. So I would say speed, just take some time, maybe getting used to. Obviously at North Texas, he played against some pretty good defenses. Probably not as good as what he's going to see in the Big 12. But, yeah, so that I would say speed. Maybe complexity of defense. I mean, I remember that was the hardest thing for me when I got back to Oklahoma State is just seeing, in high school you see maybe 2, maybe 3 coverages. It's very, very vanilla. And then you get to college football and it gets a little more complex. And then, on third down, they try to confuse you and blitz and do all those things. So I think it's just, he's a smart guy. I've everything he does and says, I really admire. He does a great job. So I'm not real worried about it. But it's going to be a little bit of adjustment early on. But I mean, the guy's talented. I mean, he's a big guy. He can throw it. I think he's got an extremely, extremely high ceiling. But I told people when I was going through it, I mean, baseball was always my sport, and I did that for as long as I could. And then when I came back, I mean, to read defenses, it took me a little bit, just understanding it, kind of knocking the cobwebs off and understanding, the terminology of defense and stuff like that. But he's long beyond that. He's been playing football, so he's way ahead of where I was for sure. So I'm excited to watch him play. I really am. He got a ton of talent, and like I said, they just finished up the media day stuff, and I just love everything that he says, and he handles himself the right way.
Yeah, agreed. What stands out to you about the position overall in college? Some of these guys are way more prepared to play immediately, like a Bear Bachmeier last year. Just give us a sense of kind of where the position is right now at the college level.
I think it's, I wouldn't say it's 100%, but I would say it's kind of trending to that more mobile, mobile quarterback. And I think it's doing the same thing in the NFL. I mean, look at guys like Josh Allen and, the days of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees kind of standing there and just surgically dicing you apart. I mean, yeah, you could do that. But nowadays, I mean, especially the longer you play in the NFL, I mean, the pass rush is just, it's insane. The complexity of defense is just crazy. So you got to have a quarterback that can kind of move. And if you look across the country, I don't follow it quite as close as I used to, but it just seems all the guys that, give their team the best chance to win. The Chambliss kids that went to LSU, the guys that are mobile and can kind of extend plays when things aren't there and get their offense 4, 5, 6 yards or have the potential to crease you and get explosive plays. But yeah, I think it's just a mobile quarterback has kind of become kind of a priority for these coaches when they are recruiting kids. But at the end of the day, I'm still a firm believer. You got to stand in there, understand what you're seeing, and have the ability to sling it and throw it accurately, throw it on time, things like that. So I think you just combine, arm talent, accuracy, things like that, with a guy that can extend and be mobile enough to make plays with his feet.
Brandon Whedon joins us here on Big 12 today. Oklahoma State legendary quarterback with us on the program. For this season, like a lot of people have made Oklahoma State a really trendy pick to kind of be a dark horse contender in the Big 12. In your eyes, how does that happen? And like from the outside, what is a realistic bar for Eric Morris and Mestemaker and everybody else in year one?
Yeah, I mean, when people ask me, I mean, I live an hour from Stillwater, so I get the question all the time, how are we going to be? And I said, this doesn't sound good, but it's like, we can't be any worse, right? Like, it's got to get better than it was last year. But I kind of like I said earlier, I think we got to get back to having a different identity on offense. Maybe not being quite as passive, being more aggressive. I feel like whenever we were at our best when I was there, and even after I left, I think, we played with the tempo that allowed us to dictate what the defense did versus the defense being settled in and dictating what we did offensively. So I think just that attack mentality, the aggressive style of play. I mean, just, smash mouth, hit you in the face on defense. Last year, as bad as it was, for the most part, I think most guys continue to play pretty hard. We just had a lack of talent out there. And It's hard to say when you have 82, 83 new guys coming on, onto a team that haven't played at that university before. I mean, there's so many question marks, so it's hard to put your finger on it and hard to have a grasp of what's going on. But I just think we need to establish the identity, kind of like everywhere that Eric Morris has ever been. You can tell they have an identity, and the last couple of years at Oklahoma State, unfortunately, I just don't think we've really had one. Just kind of not sure we were good or great at anything, so there's kind of a smorgasbord of play calls and ways that we were trying to attack off or tag defenses in particular. So yeah, I just think he creating that identity, and I know he's trying to do that. He's talked about it, and I think there's a guy that can do it. It's definitely Eric Morris.
Do you see similarities between Eric Morris and Mike Gundy?
Yeah. I mean, I think especially Coach Gundy when I first got there. I mean, of course, the year I got there was 2007, so that was the infamous "I'm a man, I'm 40" chant or rant he went on. So he was young, fiery. He's always been a little bit more outspoken, but he was just he had a lot of juice to him, and that's kind of where Eric's at. I mean, guy's got a lot of energy, got a lot of passion, for what he does, passion for the kids that are in that locker room, and a passion to win. And I think Coach Gundy definitely had that. They're obviously both being offensive-minded guys, have the ability to get creative and draw up pretty good concepts and plays to be successful on offense. So yeah, I definitely see some I mean, different personalities to a certain extent, but I do see some similarities on how they want to run a program and how they want to do things to create a culture and create an identity.
All right, Brandon, think back to your playing days. This could be a Gundyism or any specific moment, but your best moment wearing the orange and black could be a game, locker room, hallway conversation, anything goes. Give us a story.
Oh, man. God. I mean, on the field, let me think about off the field. On the field, for me, it was beating OU at home the way we did to win the Big 12 championship my senior year. I mean, we had the mishap at Iowa State a couple weeks before, and so we knew that we had to take care of Oklahoma, and we thought if we won in the fashion that we did, we might have a chance to go play for the national title. And man, just when I say we punched them in the mouth and they wanted none of it, it was such a good feeling. I mean, the third quarter, we knew that game was pretty much over, and they did too. So, kudos to our guys up front and our guys, blocking the perimeter. I mean, those corners and safeties wanted no part of it. They just wanted to get to the locker room, and our guys just kind of imposed their will on them. So yeah, after that game, celebrating, I mean, I had to put my helmet. I had a Big 12 championship hat on, and I had to put my helmet back on because I kept getting hit in the head. I got hit more on the field celebrating, I think, than I did during the game. So it was quite a celebration. That night was a lot of fun. Oh man, off the field, I'm trying to think of something. My one lasting memory, it's not a good memory, it's a horrible memory, but 2000, I think it was 2008, we were headed to Georgia to play, I believe, if I remember, I think it was Georgia. And Coach Gundy got mad. We had a couple specialists that showed up late to our little meeting before we were doing our mock game, exactly a week before we traveled to Athens, and he was pissed. And so we went out on the turf. This is August, and we went out on the turf and ran 54 100-yard sprints. Now, the first 12, 14, 16 were sprints, and then guys were, it's 125 degrees on that turf. So not one of Gundy's best memories, and as us players, we still bring it up. We still talk about it all the time. It was crazy. I'm sure he regrets doing it because we went to Georgia and got smoked. We had no legs, and everybody was gassed. But that's kind of a legendary story. If you were there from 07, 08, 09, those years, it was not one of Coach Gundy's fondest memories because we let him know everybody was pretty ticked off.
Yeah, I'm going to guess nobody was late the rest of the season.
Guys were on time. He did make a point. I guess he was trying to get his point across. He did, but I'm not sure it was the smartest way to go about it if we were trying to win a football game.
Yeah, well said. Brandon Whedon, former Oklahoma State quarterback here on Big 12 today. Huge fan, man. You were elite at that position. Loved those Oklahoma State teams and can't wait to see kind of this new era of Oklahoma State football. Appreciate it, Brandon.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Brandon Whedon, our guest here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are powered by our friends at Modelo. That 2011 run for Oklahoma State was incredible, and his numbers were jaw-dropping for the Cowboys. Coming up next on the program, we pivot over to women's soccer because the Big 12 season is just a few weeks away. Michelle.
Backside pressure. Flores felt it, and he's brought down by Jackie Marshall.
Quarterback draw. And Crittenton runs into a wall. Jackie Marshall.
All the two defensive tackles in the middle really do work. Number 0, Jackie Marshall. The quickness and aggressiveness right there to disengage from that block and get that tackle for loss.
Third down and 7. Middle run. That had the look of a 4-down play sequence. We'll see if they are going for 4 down below the 35 of Baylor.
Baylor's defense has been able to do.
Levitt. Blitz coming. It could have been worse. Jackie Marshall finally will get credit for the sack.
Jackie Marshall, just watch him, not truly rushing, right? Kind of just waiting to see what he does. He corrals him, grabs that left, right leg, and puts him to the ground.
Little play action. River eyes downfield. The dump at the last moment to Rodgers. He's had himself a ball game. Even if he plays going that third down, really does a nice job.
Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Back in studio, it's fantastic. Being out of studio is not fun, unless you're like at a cool place, like Big 12 Media Days, the spring meetings, or on campus at a football game. But being home, as great as it sounds, is not ideal. A lot of distractions, a lot going on. It's tough to, from a Zoom standpoint, be on time. It's just not the same as being in the same room. And you know, this show is hosted exclusively remotely for the first 6 years of its existence.
Oh, yeah.
So I can tell you the show is considerably better with just me and not you. I meant,
that's
sorry,
it.
with us in studio. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
That's the key. That's it. So were you guys connected? Like, because you'd kind of rotate co-hosts back then when you were doing it. I didn't realize 6 years remotely? Like, that's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, so when this channel launched on a different platform back in 2018, I have my youngest son, Aaron, wasn't even born yet. He was 2 months from being born. It's crazy. And now we're almost, 2 years in with this?
Yeah, we're past, or I guess not quite.
I think we
going
launched
into year 3.
on my 39th birthday, or right around there, which will be August 23rd, so a month from today. Right around there is when we launched on TuneIn.
Yeah, I think it was around this time that I learned of the opportunity and that Big 12 Radio was going to look very different just in terms of the provider. Now we're on video. You know, it was a year of doing this in studio on the radio side only. I'm with you on the working from home. There are definitely pros and cons. I don't think I could ever be somebody that works from home, wake up, start working at home, close the day down, working from home. I think I would really struggle with that. And for you to do it for 6 years, man, did you guys have like, and what I lost my train of thought, was going to ask, did you guys, like, how was the delay? Because 2018, the technology that we have now, a lot of this wasn't there back then.
Yeah, what's really interesting is COVID changed a lot of that. So, like, we were using old school radio technology to connect via a Comrex unit. So,
Familiar with that? So you couldn't see each other.
we did have like a Zoom we would join, but that wasn't the on-air product. Our conversations, via the radio equipment was how it worked.
Right. Well, and just basic like human communication and interactions is very much body language. The little things that like you can't pick up when it's just audio only, which is why radio is such just a unique platform, because it's truly theater of the mind, right? So just being in studio, all being in the same room, I'm actually finding that I'm more distracted in studio than I am when I'm at home, because when I'm at home I can just kind of lock myself in that what I call oversized closet, and I do a pretty good job of tuning everything out. But here, like, we've got a lot of commotion in the building right now. We've got various noises in terms of like jet engine AC units all firing up at the same time periodically. Sometimes people will be walking behind the camera. So for me, like, I go squirrel mode when we're in studio, but I like that. I like that aspect of it because I like the challenge. And at home, it's really easy to kind of like go through the motions,
I like the challenge. I love that.
I like the challenge of locking in and being focused.
You're basically Kenny Dillingham. You're basically Kenny Dillingham.
I just pass excellence.
Love the challenge. It's great to be at home without any distractions, but I like the distractions that the challenges. I like the challenges that the distractions present while being.
And also just like being here in studio, and especially with the new graphics today, like all the things that just gradually over time have been rolled out. It energizes me a lot more than being at home, right? Now at home I can have 16 cups of coffee in a 3-hour period, but here, water only going forward. There's something about being in person that just makes it so much better. You clearly disagree, which is okay.
No,
you hate me and you want to be at home forever.
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
I thought I said I liked being in studio. I did not mention being with you in person, though, as one of the positives for it. But sure, why not? I think it's less distracting because I've got, you've got kids at your house, my kids at my house. It's tough. That's the distracting part.
Yeah, no, it is.
But I guess I'm more distracted at home than you are, and you're more distracted here than I am.
Yeah, I'll meet you in the middle.
Okay.
It's my bump.
So we're not distracted anywhere then. Is that
Right.
meeting in the middle?
Yeah, I think that's it.
There's no distractions.
Just a couple of pros, no distractions.
No distractions.
Full throttle, Big 12, all the time.
All gas, no brakes. What else? What do you got going on? What's top of mind for you right now?
What's living rent-free?
No.
Is that what you're asking me?
No. What's top of mind for you?
Just in terms of my life in general?
Whether it's rent-free or you're paying for rent.
Or is it Big 12 related?
Anything.
See, this is a great example. There is a man, now we have two men, behind the camera that are carrying full-size ladders.
Yeah,
I would say that's a full size.
They're cutting down nets. They're getting ready for the Final
They're
Four.
cutting down nets, and they're walking directly behind the camera. That's a distraction.
Where did you want them to walk?
We both had to overcome.
Did you want them to matter transport?
They did an
from
excellent
one side
job.
to the other?
I barely noticed them. But just out of the corner of my eye, caught those ladders just sailing by behind the camera. Top of mind. Big 12 or just in general?
In general.
Might be buying a house.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that's a process. That's a process. TBD on that.
So this is sort of an updated story here from an ongoing saga where you live in an area with older homes, kind of like where I live, very similar. And so I believe you've been working on your wife basically ever since she's been your wife and even prior to her being your wife on maybe a bigger, newer house in a different area.
Yeah, here's what I'm in favor of. Less money, more house.
Yeah. No,
that's a great combo.
Yeah.
More space, more house, lower monthly payment.
I think Salina, Kansas can offer that.
Right. Like, that's the place to be.
Where are you moving?
It's still, like I said, it's a work in progress.
Well, you just said we might be buying a house.
Yeah.
So now you've got me in question mode.
So we've looked at a couple. One would be actually closer to work, but further east. Because it's more, what's Taman pointing at his phone?
He wants me to promote our power hours, which I will do. Don't worry,
Okay.
Taman.
Great job.
But you wear your pretty little head.
Chains. Again, another distraction that we've now overcome. Taman with a symphony of signals from his producer seat. So yeah, trying to get more house, less cost, which is a challenge in a market like this.
East Dallas would actually be further from work.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you said closer to work.
It's closer to the work in terms of minutes in the car. Yeah, I know it doesn't make sense.
Interesting. Okay.
But it is. It's further distance-wise, but it's closer to the George Bush Tollway.
So you are looking to get just so we're all on the same page here. That is a more expensive area. East Dallas.
East of where we both live?
What about like Lake Highlands?
No.
Got
We're
it.
talking like due east. Still in Richardson.
Oh.
School district. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not talking way east. There is and I know what you're thinking because Dallas is very much neighborhood based.
Yeah.
There's a hidden gem over there.
Okay.
It's a sleeper pick.
All right.
It's got Hall of Fame potential.
All right.
So we'll see. I'm trying not to get my hopes up.
Clearly. Because you went all in on buying a new house and then you kind of reined it back in. Like, we're not that far down that path.
Yeah.
But, no, it's good. I know that you've, that's been something you've been sort of had your eye on.
Yeah, that's what's rent free.
Nothing is better than the process of buying a house, I'll tell you that. Am I jealous of you?
It is a cakewalk.
Nothing's easier. Couldn't be any easier. We've got our Thursday Power Hour today. So remember, we've got the show 7 to 10 a.m. live every single weekday morning. And then the show replays, not live, replayed, 10 to 1. Then following that, you get more of us. Power Hour interviews from Media Days today, 1 o'clock. Jaden Bray, Nick Cray. Easy to pronounce when it's said right next to Bray. Jaden Craig. Say Jaden Bray, Nick Cray, Jaden Craig 6 times fast. Jamel Johnson, Paul Oyewale, Jalen Rayner, Isaac Terrell. That's you'll hear all those interviews from Media Days at 1 o'clock. Then it continues. Cam Pickett, Trey Latham, Devin Dampier, Wayshawn Parker, Antoine Peak, Tarantayo. Woo! That's right, Cincinnati, Utah, Kansas. And then, as if we were done for a Thursday Power Hour, how about back-to-back Power Hours, 3 o'clock Central. Noah Fafita, Tay Brown, Willie Fritz, Kenny Dillingham.
That's a laundry list of names.
That I think Power Hour is not even. It's too subtle.
I only heard you mispronounce one.
Who?
Like legit. That's impressive.
Who?
Isaac Terrell.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
It is a toughie.
You know what?
Terrell. I only asked that because I had to ask him.
I'm calling him Terrell.
Do it. Just lean in.
Who cares what he says? Okay. I'll pronounce your name however I want. This is America, Isaac. Thank you. Thanks to our great producers, Anthony Smith. The new look on Big 12 Studios looks amazing. Anthony Smith is the absolute best. Thanks to David Turner, also the absolute best on the radio side with Tune In. Thanks to James Westing, Amari Tepkin. Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, is back tomorrow. But for now, we out. Peace.